everyone and welcome to Formula E Accelerate London, coming to you live and direct from an absolutely buzzing London Excel ahead of this weekend's E-Prix. Now, over the next 3.5 hours, we're going to be bringing you some incredible sim racing action where 11 drivers are going to take to the track to try and win their share of our €100,000 prize pool and potentially book themselves a VIP trip to Seoul. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Formula E Accelerate. Let's go racing. Well, hello everyone. My name's Darren Adetossier. Alongside me is Jack Nichols and Lewis McGade, and we are coming to you from the London Excel Centre for what is about to be the most amazing next few hours. Isn't that right, guys?
Really looking forward to this. I mean, we're here ahead of the E-Prix, the penultimate meeting of the Formula E World Championship tomorrow and Sunday. But before that, we see some of the best sim racers in the world take to the same track that the races will be on over the weekend. And look, we've seen Formula E Accelerate last year. We had the Race of Home Challenge. We had the Visa Vegas E-Race. Formula E's got a great history in esports and another chapter set to be writ tonight.
Indeed. I mean, just such a cool venue to be racing in, obviously in real life at Formula E and then tonight with Formula E Accelerate. And just to put the context for you guys, take a look around us. This is all very much real. Let's give a moment for the car. We've got our Gen 2 car here. I'm real, you're real, and Lewis, tell us a bit more about why this is so important.
This is actually the first time we've met in real life.
Oh wow!
We've raced a bit.
Yeah, we've raced each other for 8 years online in sim racing, but now this is real as well.
Look, for context, they're both amateur sim racers. I'm going to go for. Maybe I think you're quite good.
I think we're about to prove that I'm not.
Exactly. But we're nothing compared to these guys, right?
No, these are 9 of the very, very best. Obviously, we've got 2 invited as well. But these guys have come through the hot lap qualifiers. They've proven themselves to be the very, very best in sim racing. They've shown that time and time again also in a handful of other competitions. I mean, we've got a couple as well coming from last season, the likes of Freddie Rasmussen and Hanyovsky, who were the top 2 in the championship last season. Again, coming back to prove themselves once more. It's a fantastic competition and just 2 races. It's a lot to play for in that short space of time.
Well, before the guys get on the sims, I'm curious now, given your sim racing backgrounds, I would like to see what you can do on the circuit before they hop over there. Guys, ready?
All right, fair enough.
Off we go. Thank you very much. Right, guys, talk us through the track. Okay, so here we go then. Whilst the guys are getting onto the simulator, here is a look at our Excel Centre London E-Prix circuit. Now what's really unique about this is that it is indoor and outdoor. Here we are having a lovely ride across the outside. And then as you see, we get into the shade and we have our indoor circuit as well. Now what's really cool about this track are the overtaking opportunities, which I'm going to be fascinated to see which one out of Jack and Lewis go and do that. Who's going to finish first? We will find out shortly. But yeah, we are going to have an epic moment of racing here in just a few moments' time. But for now, here's a glimpse of what to expect.
Thank you, Darren. Now, I'm a little bit nervous about this. Lewis and I are going to show you around the track. I've not done any practice. He's done loads of practice. So much practice. Like, this is unfair, but here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, right. We're going to start in 3, 2, go.
Whoa, the jump start, mate. The jump start.
So this is the rundown into the first corner. We're indoors at the moment, and we come through this very tricky left-right, very tricky. Luke, I thought you'd done practice, Lewis.
Yeah, I have, but I'm just, I'm still washed, as the cool kids say.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm lighting up the rears. So then we come outside, and we come down this slip east, down into this little complex down here, which is a very tight and twisty. I'm locking the brakes every time I touch them. I feel like a real Formula E driver complaining about the brakes. Whoa! Back end on its way. Right, this is the right-hand corner at Sandstone. Now we're on the back straight towards. Now this is where we're going to see all the action, McGlade.
It certainly is. The double hairpin section. It lulls you into this chance of trying to make a big dive bomb. It's such a tricky braking zone into it as well. Very, very bumpy. And man, is it tight.
Yeah, this lock. The amount of lock you need. Goodness me. Are you in the same race as me?
No, I'm not, mate. I'm Division 2, Division 2.
You're nowhere near, right. So then there's this little chicane, and then this is down to another really tricky corner and another good overtaking opportunity, and somewhere where we'll see lots of passing because attack mode is here on the outside. I'm just going to go through the attack mode activation zone, which is out here, right on the exit of the corner at turn 16. And then the drivers can use that for 90 seconds during the race on one occasion. Now we're back into the tight, twisty sections. I thought this is going to be such an easy win.
It's the brake pedal, man. My left leg is not as strong as yours. I'm quite impressed, mate. I'm quite impressed.
Right, I'm literally rolling up the hill waiting for you because we're going to have a one final corner shootout. Yeah. Oh,
I'm still going straight on at that corner, mate. Don't you worry.
Right. Okay. Here we come. Then we come back inside here into the final corner. Into the left, I'm literally just at a standstill. Oh, what an overtake! What a move for the lead from McGlade! And out across the line, and that is the lap of the London E-Prix that we will actually be racing in Formula over the weekend, and that the drivers will be racing here.
Better than us.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Better than you? I don't know. I think I could be mid-grid. I think I could be mid-grid if I gave it a go. But this is how the rest of the evening is going to look, Darren.
Thank you very much, Jack. I mean, that was a much better explanation of the London circuit than my own. But now let me give you a rundown of what exactly we're going to be getting up to this evening. Here's a look at our schedule. So we will have our qualifying session, which will be taking place shortly. And then, of course, in Formula E, something that's new to us is our duels. So taking a look at the schedule then, we will have 6:44 quarterfinals, 7:05 our semi-finals, and then we have our final one at 7:18, the race at 7:32, and then we kick off into the second half of the evening with our quarterfinals 2 at 8:03. At 8:26 we have our semi-finals 2, 8:41 final 2, and then just before 9 we will be kicking off with our final race, which is going to determine who is going to be winning that €100,000 prize pool. How excited! Right, now I'm joined back by Jack and Lewis. How was that circuit, guys?
I'm not embarrassed.
You're quite embarrassed.
Like, he's been, I've done loads of practice. I said, can I do like a lap of practice? They're like, no, we've got to keep it ready for the sim races. Turns out I didn't need any practice.
I want you to look good on broadcast. You know, I'm just an expert.
It's the first time for everything. Yeah.
Right, so afterwards we're getting the real lap then, is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Well, all that practice, it'll come out one day.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah?
A long time.
Just not now.
Can I get involved in this one?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You definitely go faster than me around there.
Yeah,
not the greatest lap I've ever done in my life.
No, exactly.
Well, maybe
the worst though.
Really, you've done worse than that?
I think so. Oh, I definitely think so.
Wow.
Thanks, mate.
That's horrific.
So supportive.
Right, well maybe we focus on the actual pros then.
Yeah.
So let's focus on FP2. What were the results like for that?
Well, FP2 is ultimately what decided the duels format and who would face who in the quarterfinals and the top 8 that would advance. And unsurprised, well, the thing is with this grid is it's so tight. So everyone's a surprise if they're not quickest. It was Freddie Rasmussen who was fastest, a 10th quicker than Marcel Chinchik. Graham Carroll 3rd, Bono House down in 5th, which was a bit of a surprise. Erhan Yayovsky down in 6th position. He was going to be a front runner, but it doesn't really matter because we're into the duels now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Bono, the one being in 5th, is the one that kind of is the highlight for me because he's looked. They've had a little bit of practice before this. He's looked super fast in the practice we've had before, but somehow in FP2 maybe didn't come quite out. But timing is everything in something like this, and they don't have, in the duels, it's just one lap, isn't it?
Yeah, and ultimately all that mattered really is that Peter Berliak, Ellis Spezia, and Ben Daly don't advance through to the duels. So they will start 9th, 10th, and 11th on the grid. Everyone else, the grid positions are still all to play for.
Brilliant. And Jack, could you tell us a bit more about the duels? Obviously, it's something that's new to us this season in Formula E. I love it. It's amazing to see. But for people that are watching at home who maybe haven't tuned into a Formula E race before, which is okay, that's fine. You've started now, so that's all that matters. Then could you, explain it perhaps, please?
Well, so basically, we're just in knockout phase, basically, like a cup competition in football or something like that. So we go into the quarterfinals, head-to-head. The winner of the 4 quarterfinals will go through to the semi-finals. Winner go through the final, and the winner gets pole position for the race. And it's basically a one-lap shootout. They don't start side by side on the track. They start about 10 seconds apart, but you're still on the track at the same time putting a lap in. And we've seen it in real life be incredibly close, and I'm not expecting this to be any different.
Fantastic. You looking forward to it,
Oh
Lewis?
yeah, so much so. Like it's a tight one, especially some of the head-to-heads we've got as well. The likes of Freddie Rasmussen and Jano Opmir, 2 drivers that are well known in sim racing. It's kind of it's a who's who. Every duel, when it comes to me as a sim racing fan, someone who's been in sim racing for such a long time, every single one of these duels is just a top tier rivalry, which is going to be great.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be impossible to predict any of them.
Well, that was my next question. I was going to ask you, Lewis, what are your predictions for this race? Who do you think is going to be at the top?
It is hard to look past Freddie Rasmussen. He's been so strong. Obviously, last season, our champion, took it in that final round from Erhan Yayovsky in that double points race. At the moment, from what we've seen so far, has he been the fastest all the way through? Bono's challenged him a few times, but Bono's only in 5th in the free practice. I think Freddie's coming in like stronger and stronger every single session. I think he's going to be a very hard driver to beat.
This is why we get Lewis on board, to know that great insight, like, who do you think is going to win? I think the reigning champion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And who was quickest in
I
the
did show
practice.
my skills. I showed my skills already.
Exactly. What, like, anyway.
Well, go on then, Jack. Who do you think is the driver to watch?
I think over one lap and dealing with the pressure, I think Bono House, I think, is someone who I'm going to back. Yeah.
What, Freddie Rasmussen?
Oh, he's
No, 'cause
already
I've already
picked
it.
Freddie Rasmussen. So
Okay, all right,
can't
you had
pick
to
the
switch
same
it up.
person.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
exactly.
Well, we're going to take a look at some Freddie Rasmussen highlights.
And as we've seen an awful lot of Freddie Rasmussen, the Dane, he's been gaming since 2014. Consistency, he reckons, is his attribute. And even when stuff like F1 esports, he hasn't necessarily had the ultimate pace, but he's there to win constructors championships for Red Bull and things like that. Although he did come through and win the Formula E Accelerate last season, so it's a fair enough pick from Lewis. Don't get me wrong.
Thank you. I approve of that.
It's absolutely
He's a very good driver.
Yeah.
Like I say, consistency is king in an event like this, especially when you've only got 2 races.
Yeah, but that'll be the thing. Can you consistently turn it in the duels? Because if you want to be on pole position, you've got to win 3 head-to-head fights against a rival. So that's going to be the question when the pressure comes down to it. Because also, for a lot of these drivers, they're quite used to being here in a real-life arena, right? But it has to feel different than when they're sitting at home, like they were in the first Formula E Accelerate series, doing it online.
Yeah, it makes a difference because it's not your rig. It's not. I mean, we've already had this. Yes, it was my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. The brake pedal is extremely stiff. You're not used to driving on a direct drive. It's not your rig. You have your own comforts at home with how you set up your rig. As soon as you come over and you're starting to drive on someone else, it is a completely different experience, and that's why you drive into all the walls.
I like Freddie just on his phone chilling though before the start.
I
of the
know,
race.
right?
That was good stuff.
And also, just going back to what you were saying, last year in Formula E Accelerate, Freddie was in his dark room.
Yeah.
Who remembers this? So, different setup today. Let's see how much that affects him.
Yeah.
I think he's got this though, looking very cool, calm and collected.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's got so much pressure, and he's got to even get through the first quarterfinal first, because that's the thing. If you don't get through the first quarterfinal, if he gets knocked out, then he could be 8th on the grid.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's a whole different story for just a 15-minute race.
Absolutely. You don't have the opportunity to work your way up the grid, not being a massive race.
No, exactly.
Well, that quarterfinal is about to happen any moment now. You guys ready?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes?
Yes.
Definitely.
Let's head over into our quarterfinals. The quarterfinals look a bit different.
It's me versus Lewis. That was the first quarterfinal.
I've warmed you up with the not
yeah.
great laps, and now you're underestimating me.
Yeah,
That's how it is.
exactly. No, so the quarterfinals are about to get underway in a few moments' time. Like I say, it's going to be a direct head-to-head on the track, 10 seconds or so, splitting them on the circuit. And this is something that we've managed to recreate in rFactor 2 because it's actually something that, because Formula E and rFactor 2 and Studio 397 have been working together for a while, because there's so many things. We'll see attack mode later on. There's so many things that Formula E sort of like invent into motorsport, and then suddenly the games have got to try and put it in, like attack mode and like this single lap format. Yeah, and regen as well.
Getting the car to actually be simulated as close as possible is a tricky feat in itself. They've done a great job. I mean, this car is a beast to drive, but the regen, the energy management, it's going to be critical. It's all going to be talking points for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll be heading out onto the circuit in a few moments' time, and we'll see who will be the first driver to advance through to the semi-final. As far as the rest of the grid works, it's the quickest driver of the losers in the quarterfinal, if that makes sense, that will be in 5th position on the grid. But first up, we're going to have Chinchik versus Yuri Toman. So it's going to be Nissan Edams versus Jaguar TCS Racing. And here comes the Nissan now, heading out through turn 9, down the back straight in towards the 2 hairpins. Now, this circuit brand new for rFactor 2, and so it is the circuit from last season with the 2 hairpins as opposed to the 2 chicanes that we will be seeing, and it will be the Nissan of Yuri Toman, the Czech racer, who will be first out and across the line, and he will be chased down by the Jaguar, and there is the Nissan coming through. So this is Chinchik that we're looking at. So, oh, sorry, I've got that wrong, haven't I? So Chinchik will be first across the line, and he'll be chased down by Yuri Toman in the Jaguar. So again, they need to make sure everything's in the right conditions as they come through the back sequence of corners. This is on board with Yuri Toman as we come towards the line to start the duel. This is going to be fascinating, I think, between the two of them, because how much do you push? I think that's always the question in the duels. How aggressive are you? Because one mistake can ruin it, but if you're too conservative, you're not going to make any progress.
And there's also a bit of extra pressure as well, because these two are teammates as well. Outside of this, they both race for Roman Grosjean's esports team in R8G, along with Erhan Yovski. So there's a little bit extra bragging rights as we see Marcel Chinchik sliding it out of the XL. Lovely stuff. They're going to do that through the hairpins as well. Prepare yourself for it.
Now, the tower on the left shows you who is ahead and who is behind at the various splits on the circuit. So Yuri Toman has started the lap and is a tenth of a second ahead of Chinchik at the moment. So here comes the Nissan coming down into the double hairpin. The gap now goes up to a quarter of a second.
Super lap.
They swing through the right and the left, and that's something these cars really respond well to on rFactor, isn't it? The whole swinging the rear out to get the rotation.
They've got to be careful of doing it though through the races, because they will overheat their tyres, and when you do that, it induces more sliding and stuff. Over one qualifying lap like this, absolutely fine. You can see Marcel Chinchik kicking the brakes into that hairpin at the end of the back stretch, coming down into T16. A great little effort there from Marcel Chinchik to wrestle that one down to the apex, and you can see how much time he's gained. Yuri Toman was ahead, goes through that hairpin, and boom, a tenth behind, and Yuri Toman is now the one under pressure.
Wow, so Toman has suddenly lost a lot of ground out there. Here comes Chinchik through the final corner. He's going to be the driver to set the benchmark lap time, and Toman is back ahead at the moment. Chinchik does a 22.296, but Yuri Toman is coming out of the final corner. This is going to be tight. There's just 800ths between them. Who's through to the semis? It is Toman.
Super lap time from Yuri Toman. I'd say over the weekend so far, Marcel Chinchik's looked faster, but Yuri Toman pulls it out of the bag when it matters most, and that's exactly what we're talking about with this format, where you have to respond every single lap.
Yeah, remarkable stuff. So we are now seeing Nikodem Wisniewski start his flying lap in the Neo. Bit loose coming into the first corner as he comes through the left and then the right, and then gets on the power again and comes out of the XL and then starts to drop down the hill the other side into this complex of corners at turns 7 and 8, and then up towards 9. He is up against Erhan Yovski in the DS Tachita. So those are the two competing here. Again, two big hitters, and Yovski's 500ths up at the moment.
Yeah, Wisniewski's a fantastic driver. He doesn't have his teammate in Peter Beliak in the duel, so it's just him basically doing it for Williams. And of course, for Neo, you can see throwing it around the hairpin there, looking really, really nice at the moment, is Wisniewski, pulling out a little bit of an advantage on the Macedonian of Erhan Yovski. But he's a proper racer. It doesn't matter necessarily about qualifying. Yovski's one that always gets stronger in a race.
Yeah, well, looks like he's going to need it at the moment because he's almost, hey, there we go, spoke too soon. He's suddenly 2 tenths ahead of Wisniewski. The ebbs and flows are quite huge on this circuit at the moment, so Yovski's almost 2 tenths up. This is Wisniewski coming into the final couple of corners. Wisniewski is now back ahead by over 1/10 of a second. Through the final corner comes the Neo. Wisniewski is going to set the benchmark lap time. It's a 22.019. Here comes Yovski up the slip and into the final 2 corners, and Yovski's made a mistake out there because Wisniewski suddenly has a huge advantage, almost 7/10 of a second. Erhan Yovski out across the line, and that's a 1 minute 22.6, 6/10 slower. Wisniewski is through to the semi-finals where he will face Yuri Toman, and I would, look, they're all going to be tough to call. I would not have called Yovski getting knocked out in the quarterfinals.
It was a really difficult one though, him being alongside Nikodem Wisniewski, who's been 2nd or 3rd fastest all the way through the last couple of days. So it doesn't really surprise me, but this is a big one. Freddie Rasmussen versus Jano Opmir. What a battle this one's going to be.
This is going to be tremendous. Here is Freddie Rasmussen making his way out of the XL now and then dropping down the hill. Rasmussen is in the Porsche, Opmir is in the Mercedes, and you'll see the tower moving on the the left-hand side once Opmir comes through the first sector split. So who was quicker through the first couple of corners? The answer is Rasmussen by 0.08 of a second. Now, Jano Opmir is fairly new to rFactor 2. We're on board with him now, but relative, I think, Formula E Accelerate from last year might have been his first rFactor 2 competition.
I believe so. Ended up finishing in 5th position in the championship as well, with a podium in that final round at Rome. Like I say, super driver, less so on rFactor 2, not really used to it, but he's put some time into the simulator outside of this event between the two, so he's getting faster and faster. It's no surprise to see him super strong around here, but he's taking on Freddie Rasmussen, reigning champ, and someone who is just so smooth in this car.
Yeah, we've seen these two fight it out in all sorts of esports categories over the years. Jano Opmir, two-time F1 esports champion, but he's 0.3 of a second down on Freddie Rasmussen at the moment. Rasmussen, through the final turn, gets on the power and comes across the line, and we will get the benchmark time of 21.7 for Rasmussen. That's a very, very quick lap time. So I won't be amazed if Opmir can't beat it because that's so fast. Here he comes into the left-hander now, cuts the timing beam, and it is Rasmussen who goes through then. So Rasmussen is into the semi-finals, and Jano Opmir is eliminated too. A 21.7 for Freddie Rasmussen.
Absolutely unbelievable lap compared to the other laps we've seen in this qualifying so far. That is faster than anyone else by 0.3 of a second.
And it was only a 10th slower than he managed in free practice 2 earlier on.
Which is amazing. Like I say, when you've only got one lap to deal with, that's when things get very, very tricky indeed. This is Graham Carroll at the moment in the Dragon Penske. He is taking on Bonner House.
Yes, this will be fun as well. Those two have been racing against each other for a long time. In fact, both raced in the Visa Vegas E-Race, the first big Formula E esports event, still I think the biggest prize money-wise esports motorsport event of all time. And Bonner House is 1/4 of a second up on Graham Carroll after about 35 seconds of the lap. So House very, very quick through the first couple of sectors. Carroll is coming down. He's in the Dragon that we're looking here. He's now over 0.4 down on Bono House as he comes out of the hairpin. We are now on board with House in the Venturi coming into the switchback hairpins.
Got to ask though, is this a great lap from Bono or is this a bad lap from Graham Carroll? A little bit gain though coming down to the hairpin, which we've seen a few times. That could be Graham Carroll overcooking the hairpin on his lap, and that's what's brought Bono down a little bit. We'll see what it's like throughout this sector.
He's got a 0.2 of a second advantage at the moment, Bono House. Is it going to grow or shrink coming into the final couple of corners? It grows to almost 0.4 of a second. So through the final corner comes Bono, and he surely is going to be going through to the semi-finals where he will face Freddie Rasmussen, another 21.7, and that's was why I didn't write the lap time, but it's like a tiny bit quicker, I think, maybe 100th or so quicker than Rasmussen went. So that's incredibly tight.
I thought writing it down to the 10th might be all right. I put 21.7. Clearly not. These guys way too fast. A 7.30, I'm pretty sure, is the fastest time that we've had thus far. But I mean, what a super effort from Bonner House. A great driver, Graham Carroll is as well, but I mean, clearly just one up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Those two, as I say, have been competing against each other for an awfully long period of time, and now they are wheel to wheel, and it's House that comes out on top. So we have a few, again, sort of surprises knocked out in that first round, but you can't be surprised when any of these guys win because they're all so good. Yeah, well, let's break it down group by group. What did you think of the first session?
I mean, yeah, again, like very tight, of course. I mean, of the ones we've seen, you know, Marcel Cinchik getting knocked out, I think was the tricky one, right? That was the one where it was a bit harder to call. From the first couple, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, Yuri Toman did a really good job actually to make it through in the Jaguar, because neither of them raced in the Formula E Accelerate last time. I think almost everyone else on the grid did, but those two are sort of two of the unknowns as far as Formula E are concerned, and maybe not quite as used to the car. Erhan Yayovsky and Nikodem Wisniewski, that was a great battle because they really ebbed and flowed, didn't they? Yeah, I'm surprised that Yayovsky struggled as much as he did comparatively to Nikodem Wisniewski, and then there was also definitely a mistake in the final sector that dropped Yayovsky back just a little bit to give the advantage seriously over. And then this to me is like the big battle. Freddie Rasmussen and Jano Opmir, two of the largest names in sim racing, going toe to toe. This is what this format is all about. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Incredible stuff there. And I mean, after that predictions chat, I'm not surprised. Are you surprised by that?
No.
Who did I say? Both our people are through, aren't they?
Yeah, and they both did 21.7s.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're all right.
Yeah.
Next up, we obviously have our semi-finals then. What are we thinking is going to happen there?
This is where it's just so impossible, because as we've said, Bono House, Freddie Rasmussen, both through to the final.
Yeah.
Through to the semi-final, I should say. Maybe I'm preempting it a little bit. Maybe they both will be through to the final, but it's going to be so close to call, because House is, as you say, even the drivers who are losing out on this and are second quickest, they are incredibly fast. But it's whether it's a good lap from one or a bad lap from the other. So this is where we're at. It'll be Wisniewski versus Toman, and it'll be Rasmussen versus House in the semi-final. And this is where it gets really difficult, because you lose in the semi-final, and okay, you could be third on the grid, but you could be fourth on the grid, and the guy you lose to is on pole, and you could lose by a thousandth of a second, but you're fourth and he's on pole, and that's the really interesting part of the duels format. It might all the right people are at the front, but just a little muddled.
Which I think is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at some of those top moments from the quarterfinals then.
I think the big surprise for me was Jajowski going out, and I think that's going to be a big surprise to him as well, because I'm trying to remember Formula E Accelerate last year, but he sort of dominated the whole series.
Won 3 races out of 6.
Yeah, he won 3 races out of 6. Thank you. There we go. This is why we've got you. This is why we've got you. But yeah, no, he dominated and was really looking strong, and then had a couple of dodgy rounds, maybe one dodgy round, and suddenly Rasmussen was in contention and taking the wins. But Jajowski was on it. So to see him knocked out in the quarters is remarkable.
Well, he was very consistent last season. Like I said, it was a first, a fourth, a second, a first, and a fourth, if I remember correctly. Obviously, it was a while ago, so yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think his lowest finish was 4th. But it was all important in that final round when it was double points, when he needed to react the most. And Freddie Rasmussen was like, "This is my time to win," and he did it, dominated, and took it at Rome.
And here's the thing: if you don't get through to the semi-finals today, I don't think you're winning the championship this evening.
I agree.
Because we've got race 2 coming up, but if you're starting 6th on the grid for race 1, you're going to really be struggling to score points big enough to be able to make it up in the second race. Do you see what I'm saying?
No,
you need 2 big results tonight if you want to be the champion.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Very welcome.
We're all right at this.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of winning the championship, obviously the grand prize of Formula E Accelerate is getting that share of the €100,000 prize pool, but also the VIP ticket to the Seoul E-Prix. That's pretty amazing. I mean, talk us through how cool. Seoul. Talk us through it.
Really looking forward to Seoul. Absolutely can't wait. It's coming up in 2 weeks' time, and it's going to be a brand new circuit that Formula E have never raced on before, and that I've never been to South Korea. I don't know if many of our esports winners have been to South Korea, but as a season-ending race, it's going to be phenomenal, especially considering how close the real Formula E World Championship is. It would be quite the experience to come to Seoul. Maybe we'll invite you to.
Yeah, I think Lewis, you
I'd
should
love
come with
to
us.
come along.
Are you coming to Seoul?
Yeah, why
all right.
not? Why not?
Done deal.
I'll book the flight. It's fine.
Okay. Oh, you're paying.
I'll
for
pay
the
for it.
flight.
It's fine.
All right. Oh, great.
Okay,
That's
easy. That was
I'll just invoice them. It's fine.
Yeah.
First class, of course, right?
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, it's only almost time for us to go to the semi-finals. But before then, gentlemen, I think you have something to debut, I've heard. Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah. I am taking a step away, and you are debuting something incredible for us right now.
Okay. I actually don't know what this is. Is it the trophies? Are we debuting the trophies?
We are debuting the trophies.
Okay, well then these are the Formula E Accelerate trophies, which are going to be won. The gold, the silver, and the bronze are the top 3 positions. You got any trophies, Lou? Actually, we saw you driving earlier.
I've got 2 trophies actually.
What from?
I got a 3rd place at Nürburgring once, and I got a trophy from it, which I instantly took into a local fast food place. But we won't talk about that.
Wow, amazing. Okay, we'll move on from that
Yeah, thank
and
you.
watch the semi-final. Wisniewski versus Toman, and it is the Neo driver who is going to be out on circuit, and you can see him on his outlap at the moment, just warming up the tyres, and the Jaguar of Yuri Toman will be with him. So this is Toman versus Wisniewski for a place in the final and on the front row of the grid. Here is the Jaguar man now. Yuri Toman is in the Jaguar. Wisniewski is in the Neo. And I think it's the Jaguar who is first out on track as they come through the back-to-back hairpins and down towards the little chicane that takes them then out into the anchor at turn 16. And this is going to be a really interesting fight. Yuri Toman, not actually someone that I've come across before in esports. I have to say, he's won the VEC LMP2 championship recently. He's studying for a master's in economics, but I've not seen him before. So I'm interested to see how he can do up against Nikodem Wisniewski, who's very well known indeed.
Yes, he certainly is. We're on board with Nikodem Wisniewski through the first sector here. And as much as I would say in this, if I were to pick between these two, Wisniewski would be my favourite between the two. But Yuri Toman is someone not to count out, because whilst he might maybe not counted to be as fast as Wisniewski, his consistency and keeping his nose clean, that's what's important. That's what's got him the drive at R8G alongside Marcel Cinchik, that they were teammates before at a team called Varga, and moving their way over. Toman's just clean, he's consistent, doesn't really make that many mistakes. Wisniewski is almost the polar opposite.
He's so late on the brakes coming into the hairpin, and you can see the car moving around, and maybe moving it around on purpose in order to swing that back end out. He was a tenth quicker than Toman. We'll see how, little tap on the wall on the exit of the chicane. Can Toman take advantage of that and start to close the gap back down? Wisniewski coming into turn 16, again, fighting the car. Is that too much? Little bit, and Toman now all of a sudden has a half a second advantage over Nikodem Wisniewski, and he's not even at the point where Wisniewski made that really obvious mistake down at turn 16.
And now Wisniewski's going to really throw it into these final couple of corners. Watch out as we head back into the XL. Hooks the apex up quite nicely. He's gained an awful lot of time back. Yuri Toman only ahead by 0.04 of a second. Wisniewski out of the final corner.
This is going to be so close for a place in the final. Wisniewski does a 22.191. What is Yuri Toman going to do? Here he comes back indoors after the right-hander on the penultimate corner of the circuit. Wisniewski's over a tenth of a second up. So this is going to need to be a huge final corner if Toman wants to make it onto the front row of the grid. Oh, it's close. 200ths between them. But it is Nikodem Wisniewski that will start on the front row of the grid and is through to the final. What a tremendous race that was.
Super. Despite that mistake as well, Wisniewski still had the speed to come back. It's, like you say, an incredible driver is Nikodem Wisniewski, very, very fast, but he's off to the final to take on one of these two. This is going to be a fantastic battle. Freddie Rasmussen versus Bono House.
Can't wait for this. This is going to be... This could be the... Well, look, Wisniewski's great, but this could be the... Look how wide the Venturi is going into the final corner. Bono House to line up that run down the start-finish straight. Semi-final. Bono House versus Freddie Rasmussen. We're on board with House as he comes into turn 1, swings right at turn 2, then another left-hander at turn 3 before emerging out into the sunlight and down the ramp. Freddie Rasmussen starting his lap now, there in the Porsche. We'll see how they compare after the first couple of corners. Oh, big slide from Rasmussen. And these are our two picks as well, and Rasmussen is ahead at the moment, which was Lewis's pick.
There's never been more on the line than this right now. I'm so desperate for Freddie Rasmussen. No, for real though, these two, I'm expecting this needs to be a 21-7 to get through. It might come from a little bit of a mistake, but they know that realistically, that person they're in this battle with might well be their main target for the entire evening, and that's kind of even added pressure. But Freddie Rasmussen through the first sector, so strong.
Yeah, almost 2 tenths up on Bono House. Now through the hairpins where so much time can be gained and lost. Look how beautifully Rasmussen swings it around those two corners, and the gap is now almost 2 tenths of a second. House is further around the lap, so he's going to be the first to come across the line and set the benchmark time, attacking the curbs on the way in. We're on board with House as he comes into the final couple of corners, chips a little bit of time away at Freddie Rasmussen. One final corner now for House, the back end sliding a little bit. What lap time are we going to get? Will it be a 21.7? It's a 21.567, huge lap from House, but Rasmussen is going quicker. There's a tenth of a second between them now. Rasmussen into the final turn, out through the left, across the line. Who's going to be going through to the final? It is Rasmussen by almost 2 tenths of a second. It's a 21.396 from Freddie Rasmussen.
The absolute fastest lap that we have seen so far over the last couple of days. That is a superb lap time. Again, delivering when it mattered most. And Freddie Rasmussen, just absolutely incredible. I just don't know how they can do it. You know, when it comes to a time like that, when it comes to pressure like this, and they still manage to find that extra little bit.
Yeah, absolutely remarkable. Really, really good race that. And it's so weird because it wasn't as close as I thought it was going to be. Both did unbelievable lap times. And if you'd have told me before Bono House is going to lose out with a 21.5, I'd have said, Lewis, you're a farce. You're a farce of a man.
You do normally.
Yeah, but It's true, it's the case, unbelievable.
And I'd say realistically between these two, as much as I know that Nikodem Wisniewski has the ability to find that little bit in the finals, I'd say that the advantage very much is in the favour of Freddie Rasmussen. Maybe that might be to his detriment, because sometimes you go into the final knowing that you're the favourite, and that can sometimes sort of weigh on your mind a little bit.
Yeah, no, really interested to see what happens. So it will be Nikodem Wisniewski up against Freddie Rasmussen in the final, in the battle for pole position. And it's going to be really, really fascinating just to see what unfolds. Now, Nikodem Wisniewski had a really entertaining first semi-final, didn't he? Because they really ebbed and flowed, and it was very impressive from Wisniewski in the end.
So tight as well, just 200 of a second between the two of them. And you can see here as we're looking at Wisniewski, some of the moments that he had over that lap, I was thinking there is this one.
He was cooked.
No way on this earth is he going through to the final, but still managed to hook up that final sector. He delivered when it mattered.
Yeah, Wisniewski made up so much time through that penultimate corner. It was unbelievable, and came across the line, a 22, but this is what we're saying, a 22.1. Whereas these guys, Rasmussen was in the 21.3s. I mean, that's 0.8 of a second.
Well, think of the two people that Rasmussen's seen off already. He's seen off, Jano Opmir, of course, two-time F1 esports champion. He's seen off Bonner House, the 5-time Formula Sim Racing world champion, as well as being the Vegas E-Race champion, and has been in sim racing for over 10, 15 years. And then still just says, like, no, don't worry, no problem. I can deliver when I need it. Yeah. And now he's going up against Nikodem Wisniewski, one of the fastest drivers on the platform.
So this is where we're at as far as the ladder is concerned. Toman beat Chinchik, Wisniewski beat Jajowski, then Wisniewski beat Toman, and he is now through to the final. Rasmussen beat Opmir, House beat Carroll, and then it was House, knew that would happen once, versus Rasmussen in the semi-final, and the final will be Freddie Rasmussen versus Nikodem Wisniewski for the pole position. The Tag Heuer Porsche up against the Neo for that all-important pole.
Yeah, and I'd say again, favours very much on Rasmussen. But the thing is, we're racing around here. Being the leader, it's obviously a very comfortable spot, but you know that going into the braking zone, of course, going into the first couple of corners and into that double hairpin, a little bit risky. The two made a little bit of contact in a practice race as well when they both started first and second as well yesterday. So it's a little dicey between the two. I'm sure they're remembering.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Deryn is up on the stage with the drivers. Where are you, Dee?
I'm here with Erhan Jajowski, and obviously Erhan was our runner-up last year at Formula E Accelerate. Now, Erhan, when you did it last year, we didn't have the duels format. What did you think of it? Obviously, it didn't work out for you, but in general, a fan?
Yeah, I quite like the idea. It's quite a nice change compared to the last season, and it adds a lot to the show.
Yeah, and obviously not starting right at the top, but how confident are you feeling in the race, for the race ahead?
I think I'm gonna start P7, so it's all to play for. I'm gonna be aggressive at the start, and I think I'm gonna try to gain as many as positions as possible.
Yeah, you're gonna send it?
For sure, definitely.
Good luck. Thank you very much, Erhan Jajowski. Back to you, boys.
Thank you, Deryn. Yeah, so Erhan is well up for sending it, isn't he? Well, he knows he's got to make progress.
That's the thing, is that he has to. He's in a position where he has to do something now, right? He can't just sit back and be like, oh, this race might come to me. Whilst they have to do energy saving, whilst they have to do this, he has to really make some progress early on, down to the first corner, down to the double hairpin, maybe pick up from some other people's mistakes straight away.
The other big thing with this final, I think, is that there's 3 points for pole position on offer, just like in real Formula E. But in real Formula E, it's okay, 3 points, great, hooray.
But 2 races.
It's helpful. But 2 races, 3 points is huge.
Massive, absolutely massive. And the 1 point for fastest lap as well.
Yeah.
Plus the 3 points makes an enormous difference. And you can't afford to just be like, oh, I'll settle a second. You need to really push for that pole position. This one's going to be a big one.
And they've got nothing to lose as well. They're guaranteed a front row starting position. Nikodem Wisniewski, and he is going to be in a really interesting fight against Freddie Rasmussen for the battle for pole position for the first of our 2 races that we've got coming up this evening here at Formula E Accelerate London. And they're on their outlaps at the moment, making their way through the 2 hairpins. And as we've been saying, the sensible money is on Freddie Rasmussen, but you can't discount.
One mistake changes it.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, like you say, safe money. This driver right here, Freddie Rasmussen, but it only takes one mistake, one apex missed, one slight locking of the rear, getting those very, very difficult slides correct through the double hairpin section. All of that is so easy to make a mistake on.
Here we go then, Rasmussen into turn 1. The battle for pole position, 3 points as well, up for grabs. In Formula E Accelerate London. Comes through the left-hander now at turn 3, out through 4 and 5, which takes him into the sunlight and onto the outskirt roads of the London XL. Wisniewski started his lap, so keep an eye on the running clock, but more, keep an eye on that tower on the left-hand side. It's 3/10 up. Wisniewski after the first couple of corners.
He's just hooked it up on the exit and going down the ramp now up towards this very tricky double hairpin. How does Freddie Rasmussen do it? He's still risking it. He's still locking the rears, getting the regen to work just to push the car through the corner a little bit. Super stuff at the moment, almost like yanking the handbrake into that second one of the hairpins and then back out on towards the back stretch. So close to the barriers.
He had so much opposite lock coming into that chicane. Now we're with Wisniewski. He's 4/10 down on Freddie Rasmussen at the moment. Nice and quick through the first hairpin, to be fair. Now he's into the chicane. Can he close the gap down a little more? Right up to the wall, maybe brushing it a little on the exit of the chicane. We're on board here with Rasmussen. The gap is less than 3/10 of a second. It's now gone up to almost half a second. This is a big lap incoming from Rasmussen.
And is it going to be faster than that 21.3? Does it need to be? That's the big question. Comes through the final corner right now and punches it towards the line. What's it going to be?
So Rasmussen does a 21.688, very quick lap, but Wisniewski is closing the gap. It's under a quarter of a second. It needs to be a huge final corner from Nikodem Wisniewski if he's going to secure pole position out across the line. And it's Rasmussen on pole by 0.2 of a second. Freddie Rasmussen on pole position for the first race of the evening in the Tag Heuer Porsche here at Formula E Accelerate London. Very, very strong stuff from Freddie Rasmussen, who will line up at the front of the grid. And with Wisniewski alongside him, going to be so interesting to see whether anybody can stop him, basically, going into the race later on. Really good fight, really entertaining. I love the duels, even in esports format.
I mean, it went exactly how we expected, pretty much, right? So now it's like, where's the drama going to come in? Where do you think it's going to happen?
Turn 1.
Well, yeah. Well, there's turn 1. There's also attack mode as well. 90 seconds. They've got to be running in extra power, and you have to go offline. So this is the thing. Rasmussen will almost certainly lose the lead at some point when he takes his attack mode, unless he's quick enough that he can build up like a 2-second gap to then take it. But at some point he will lose that lead of the race, and that's going to be the opportunity for the others. And to me, it depends on how quickly Bono House can get to the front of the order as well. Because when it's all or nothing like this, on just one night, you've got to get it done. If you're third on the grid and you're Bono House, you've got to be second, haven't you, by turn 1?
That's
Otherwise, go home.
He's got to risk it on Nikodem big time, and that's a brave move. It's something that I'm not. I wouldn't be too keen on. Going around the outside of Nikodem?
No, exactly. There's a look at Rasmussen coming across the line to do his 21.688. Wisniewski closed in on the climb back up into the XL, but around the final corner it was pretty even between the pair of them. Most of Wisniewski's time went first few corners, it seemed like. He was 4/10 down before he'd even started the lap after like turn 3. Yeah,
he brought a little bit back in the double hairpin as well, especially with that opposite lock that Freddie Rasmussen had coming through the chicane directly afterwards. Yeah. But like you say, it's that final sector where we saw it in some of the battles as well that Wisniewski had against Yuri Toman and stuff. He's got that final sector nailed, which is very important because it races its way down to turn 1. If you get that nailed, then they're all in the same setup. That drive off is what's enough to maybe get you a position up in the race.
Yeah.
Well, next up we have our finals, and we do have our starting grid available to take a look at. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yes, so we're going to have a really interesting grid for this first of 2 races this evening, and there will be 11 drivers on the grid, 1 from each team. Ben Daly will be at the back. Spezia will be alongside him in 10th place. Petr Berliak didn't make it through the duels. Jano Opmir only 8th quickest. Erhan Yajovski as well in 7th place. These lap times denoted by who was the quickest loser in the quarterfinals, and that actually was Chinchik. Huis will be 3rd on the grid. Wisniewski in 2nd. Pole position for Freddie Rasmussen. So interested to see what Bono House does from 3rd on the grid. He's my look. I know I just keep saying he's my man to watch, and I picked him for pole and I picked him for the race, so I've still got to stick with that.
Yeah.
I'll
Are you
say.
sticking with it?
Yeah, no, I'm going to stay with Freddie Rasmussen. I will say the top three are realistically the top three that I might have thought of coming into this between Rasmussen, Wisniewski, and Bonner House. It's that fourth driver. The driver starting from fourth, Jiri Toman, super clean and very good at keeping himself just out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really interesting to see. And keeping out of trouble is going to be crucial because also this isn't a long season. If Wisniewski gets his elbows out, how do you respond? If you're leading the race and you've got Wisniewski behind you, how are you going to respond to that? Because you can't afford to let him go.
No, absolutely not. You've got to.
Is Wisniewski a bit Verstappen?
Yeah.
In that sort of, if he's
it's
making a move, he's making a move.
Oh yeah. No. If there was if I'm going into that double hairpin and I'm sort of looking in my mirrors thinking, who's behind me? It's Nikodem Wisniewski. I am ready for ascent. Problem is, into that double hairpin, you can't afford to take a defensive line really because you don't really have enough lock in the steering rack to get round if you're taking a tight line into it. So there's a lot going on in these drivers' heads.
Lots happening. Well, we have a Formula E driver here who is going to talk us through a bit more about it. Jake Dennis has joined us from the Avalanche Andretti team. Jake, lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's pretty cool e-village, to be honest. It's very nice.
What do you think of esports?
I think it's just like, it's becoming bigger and bigger. Just honestly, the simulators nowadays, just obviously in front of us here, are just getting better and better. I actually have a simulator at home, which I use all the time just for fun. But these guys are like aliens, they're so fast on these things, and they would put us to shame any day. But it's just, they're evolving all the time. The racing's becoming closer and closer. They have their own teams, doing their own setups, and what you see nowadays is just super high level. So it's very cool.
When did you get into it? Have you always been sort of doing it, or was it lockdown, or what? The classic lockdown purchase?
Yeah, I was late to the scene, just because everyone already bought their simulators, so I actually didn't join that. But generally, I've always been like a simulator guy. I've been involved with Formula 1 simulators for a long period of time now, way before COVID, and generally a big fan of simulators. I'm quite good at them, to be fair, not as fast as these guys, but generally as simulators go, I enjoy them a lot, and it's cool to be a part of because they're so advanced now, and you generally do learn different techniques and different styles of racing.
Well, the race is underway. Rasmussen has held the lead, but Wisniewski has been turned around at the very start. Coming through to the right-hander of turn 4, looked as though maybe Huis got into the back of him. So we'll see whether there's going to be any penalties incoming, because we've got live stewards and post-race stewards as well. But he got turned around there, did Nikodem Wisniewski. He's therefore now at the back of the field. Rasmussen leading, House in second. The gap is 2.6 seconds. And Jake, it's so congested. Those early corners of this track, we saw it last year, loads of contact.
Yeah, this is the biggest thing. London is so tight at turns 1 and 2, and it just backs up so much. Race 1 last year for me, I actually started on the front row, so it was pretty easy. But then
what happened at the end of the race?
Well, we ended up winning it, so it was quite good. But
no,
the next day, nice of you. Yeah. But then the next day, I started 17th, and before you even exit sector 1, you're already like 10 seconds behind the leader. So it's such a big deficit starting from the back, and I think Rasmussen's already got a 3.5 second lead after one lap. So yeah, he's got a pretty good advantage at the moment.
Yeah, and that's going to be crucial when it comes to attack mode as well, because again, we'll see it this weekend, but you lose quite a bit of ground on attack mode here. So if you have a gap, you kind of got to take advantage of that.
What is the length of the attack mode? Is it 2
It is
4 minutes?
90 seconds.
Okay,
190 seconds.
Okay. Well, yeah, he's got a pretty good advantage. Honestly, I'd probably start taking it soon if I was him, but I'm sure he knows his strategy, well thought out, more than I am. I generally just have someone telling me what to do, and then I just do that, whereas I'm sure he's figuring it out for himself. But no, he seems like he's pulling away. Oh, they're doing the old layout. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, he's got some oversteer, he has.
They often swing the back end out in these cars to get it.
That's the technique, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Special brake dab in the middle of the corner.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give that a go if I have some understeer tomorrow. See how I get on. I actually had quite a lot of understeer in my practice session, so maybe I'll speak to who was driving it, Toman.
Yeah.
And see how he does it.
Yeah, exactly. I think they try and intentionally lock the rears, and then that does it. So just give it a go; it'll be fine.
I don't think I'd have any rear tyres left if I did that.
No, that's very true. This is only a 15-minute race, which Rasmussen is leading at the moment, 4.4 seconds ahead of House. Attack mode activation zone is now open, with Rasmussen leading, House second, Toman third, Carroll fourth, Berliak's got him into fifth place, actually.
Effort.
Started in ninth.
Super effort at the moment. Also got to say, Jiri Toman as well, keeping it up into third. Lovely stuff to keep it clean.
Right. Thank you, Dennis. you can leave now and get some sleep.
Thank you very
before
much. I'm
FP2.
quite involved in this race.
Oh, well, you can stay if you want.
I need to make myself faster. I wasn't the fastest in practice today, so I need to...
All right, get back to the debrief.
I do. Thank you, guys.
All right, cheers, Jake. Jake Dennis, driver for the Avalanche Andretti team, who will be racing in Formula E over the course of the weekend. Race winner of the first ever London E-Prix last season. So Freddie Rasmussen is leading the way. Bono House is in second position, and third is Toman, fourth is Carroll, fifth is Petr Berliak, as I say. Opmir, Cinčić, Jojovski, Daly, Wisniewski and Spezia are the 11 drivers at the moment. 11 minutes to go. Is anyone going to take their attack mode this time around? Yeah, Rasmussen does it, but did he get it? Is he in attack mode?
So they do have to preempt it. They've got to do it. They're allowed to do that 5 times. To me, I'm not sure if Freddie Rasmussen actually managed to do it. Thankfully, he's got a large enough lead over Bono House that he can actually attempt to do it again. Bono House managing to pull away from this driver here. Jiri Toman is coming under increasing pressure from Graham Carroll. He's had a good start as well. Struggled a little bit. You can see their attack mode is on for Freddie Rasmussen, so super effort.
Okay, so he has got a minute of attack mode remaining, and House is in second position. Now he's in quite a close fight with Toman. This is the Jaguar of Toman that we can see just ahead of Graham Carroll in their fight over third and fourth positions with 10.5 minutes to go. Rasmussen's lead is going to grow while he's in attack mode because he's got that extra power to use, basically an extra 13% for the next 35 seconds.
But they do have to worry about actual battery life at the moment, percentage and stuff. Whilst it is only a 15-minute race, the usage of power has been adjusted accordingly when it comes to the battery size. So they do have to worry about aiming for, with this being aimed at maybe an 11-lap race, they're looking for about 9% a lap. They have to take into account, though, that the extra power that is used by going through attack mode. So they're more aiming for about 8.7% a lap, which is quite a tricky number to do consistently whilst you're in a train like this.
9 minutes and 45 seconds to go. Rasmussen is coming out of attack mode now as they come into the hairpin at turn 16. So Rasmussen out of attack mode. House didn't take it on that time through, nor did Toman, nor did Carroll, nor did Berliak, because they're all close enough that they might lose a place were they to go through the attack mode activation at the moment. And interesting what Lewis McGlade was saying about them reducing the battery, the amount of usable energy basically for this race. Well, that's what they do in real life as well, a reduction in usable energy for this London track this weekend. So trying to make it as realistic as possible. And what is realistic is Graham Carroll all over the back of Jiri Toman. Carroll, a very quick racer, raced Formula Fords back in the day. Did he raced in the Walter Hayes? Do I think he won the whole Walter Hayes? No, I think he raced Formula Ford. Maybe he won the National Formula Ford 1600 Championship in Scotland. I think he might have done that. I've known him for so long that I've kind of forgotten the stats that he used to have.
All of his good achievements.
Exactly, but a Red Bull esports driver for many years now, Graham Carroll, and he's right on the back of Jiri Toman. Thinks about it, coming into the switchback hairpins. Rasmussen and House are in a league of their own at the moment, but at some point, Toman not neat through the second hairpin there, and Rasmussen is going to be chasing him down. He's in the red and white Dragon. There comes Rasmussen through the hairpin. No troubles for the Tag Heuer Porsche man, who is leading the way though.
You've also got to worry about in that train where you've got Toman, Carroll, Berliak, Opmir. You've also got Marcel Cinčić in the Nissan Edams and Jojovski in the DS Techeetah also closing into the rear end of that battle, which puts them under pressure also. As here we go, we've got the side-by-side. We're on board with Graham Carroll now, who's dropped back behind Jano Opmir, who comes out ahead of all of this. So I don't quite know how. Graham Carroll's dropped back behind Opmir, who was behind Berliak going onto this lap. So a super lap time coming in from Jano Opmir.
Well, House took his attack mode. Did someone else? Yes, Graham Carroll. So Graham Carroll activated his attack mode on that lap. That's why he dropped behind Jano Opmir. So Opmir up into fourth position. Toman is in third. House has activated his attack mode. And then Carroll, Berliak and Cinčić are in fifth, sixth and seventh positions. Jojovski, Wisniewski, Daly and let's have a little word about Wisniewski, because he's done now. Qualified second on the grid, but his fight for the championship is done.
Yeah, we've not seen a replay as to obviously what happened. We just saw the car completely sideways coming out of the XL. Big lock up there from Jano Opmir as well, pulling it down into the first the hairpins. This has given Jiri Toman a little bit of breathing room over this train as well. But a big shame for Nikodem Wisniewski, who, as we said before, basically if you don't have 2 decent races, you're effectively done. Big bit of contact with the wall with Graham Carroll.
Yeah, on board with the Dragon driver. Coming now down into the anchor at turn 16, and through attack mode activation goes the Jaguar of Toman, and he comes out still ahead of Opmir. Opmir has not used his attack mode, I don't believe, just yet, and Carroll hasn't really made much progress while he's been in attack mode. He dropped behind Opmir and Toman, but hasn't made much progress. Opmir's made up 4 places. He's still got to use his first attack mode, his one and only attack mode, as he comes through the left-hander and out over the start-finish straight again. And it is Rasmussen who continues to lead as they come down towards the first corner. Carroll, who we're on board with here, running in 5th place. Now, Toman hasn't actually had his attack mode activated, so I think he maybe missed it.
Yeah, Jiri Toman, I think, might have missed it. Now, the way this works is they have 5 attempts at it through the race. Now, if you miss it once, you've already gone wide at the corner, you've already lost a lot of time. Now, all that progress that he made, had he actually got it, this would look really good for Jiri Toman. Now, it looks like he is going to be side by side with Graham Carroll, at least at some point, because he's going to have to take it, he's going to have to try again, and he's missed one of his attempts. Now, if you miss all of them, as there's the look from Opmir.
Opmir trying to force his way past Toman, coming into the hairpin, and he does it, but Toman returns the favour with a little nudge, and Graham Carroll says, thank you very much, I shall come through as well. A bit of contact between them as they bounce off the walls, but Carroll is now up into 4th position. He's got ahead of Jiri Toman, so Toman drops from 3rd down into 5th place, and that could be the opportunity for Opmir to take his attack mode. He doesn't go for it. Toman goes for it again. Does he get it this time around? We'll only find out at the start-finish line, but Toman might have got it this time, but his race is falling apart. Opmir's in 3rd place, just 7/10 ahead of Carroll, and when Opmir takes his attack mode, if Carroll can stay this close, he might be able to get up into the top 3, Graham Carroll.
Yeah, Marcel Chinchik right over the rear end of Petr Beliak, and that was really why Jiri Toman had to do it. He had to go for it because Beliak was looking, the Croatian driver, straight down the inside coming into turn 16. Managed to make it stick. Jiri Toman does get the attack mode as he crosses the line once again. So down to 7th. Yes, it's not great, but it looks like he might well get himself ahead of Jano Opmir if things go well for him when Opmir comes through for his attack mode as well. The top 2, though, well away from everyone. A 7-second lead at the moment from Freddie Rasmussen and a 4-second lead for Bonner House over Jano Opmir. So it's looking super at the moment for the top 2. I'm just not sure about this train behind.
Through the right-hander they come. Is Jano Opmir going to take attack mode this time through? He's in 3rd place at the moment. And we're into the double hairpins.
Ooh.
Jaguar's getting rude, Jiri Toman. He knows he's got the extra power at the moment, but can't make any use of it. What's going to happen with Jano Opmir in 3rd place? We've got 4 minutes to go. You have to use your attack mode by the time the race finishes, so we've still got a bit more time as we come down into turn 16. And he's gone for it, and he might keep the position for 3rd place. Jano Opmir, they're side by side, and he's managed to stay in front. Carroll sticks the wheel in. More contact, and Opmir holds on somehow.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure about that one from Graham Carroll, kind of leaving your nose into a very tricky corner. I mean, he gave it a good effort, but he was risking spinning out Jano Opmir right there, who gets himself into a confirmed and locked on 3rd position. We'll see if he actually managed to get the attack mode activated now. He did indeed. So super effort there for Jano Opmir. Had to be really aggressive, had to properly throw it in to try and make that one stick and hold the position from Graham Carroll. Had to get his elbows out a little bit. 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. That looks like it could be locked on, but he's got a long way to go before we see the checkered flag.
Yeah, and Graham Carroll is going to be a little bit wound up after that. I think he so nearly got the position when Opmir went through attack mode activation. Petr Beliak is still right behind Graham Carroll there. I'm not sure if Berliak's activated his attack mode yet. We've got 3 minutes to go. Rasmussen is leading. House is 2nd. Those two might as well be doing the Seoul E-Prix already. They're so far ahead. Opmir is in 3rd place, though, just ahead of Graham Carroll. A bit of kerfuffle further back as Berliak was under attack from the Nissan of Chinchik. Jiri Toman trying to get back up the order as he's now dropped down into 7th place.
Which is a bit of a shame. Like I say, Toman's consistency. If there's one driver that's more consistent than even Toman on this grid, it would be Beliak. He's a feisty racer in himself, but he knows how to sort of drive within his own limit and understands what his limit actually is. Eyes focused forward rather than on Chinchik behind. Super effort so far up in the 5th place. Not sure he can go any further because I do feel that Graham Carroll and Jano Opmir are a little bit faster.
Yeah, they've managed to pull away a little bit, haven't they? He was less than a second behind, was Peter Berliak from Opmir and Carroll. You can see on the last lap, Opmir was 0.3 slower than Graham Carroll in that squabbling fight they had as they come down into turn 1. Less than 2 minutes on the clock. Rasmussen is leading, House is second, Opmir's third. We're on board here with Chinchik, aren't we, in 6th position? Yes, and the big Nissan probably should have given it away. Apologies, right at the front there. But we're on board with Chinchik, who's running in 6th position. Less than half a second, well, about half a second behind Peter Berliak. Through the right-hander at Sandstone at turn 9. And out towards the switchback hairpins.
Yeah, see if there's anyone who's going to make a lunge on this lap. I'd say Chinchik is a bit too far back to do it on Berliak, and Berliak same as so to do it on Graham Carroll, but he has managed to close back in. You can see this, it's a slightly wider line they're taken into the first hairpin. That is intentional, does manage to tap the rear end though of Berliak, and it just pushes him offline a little bit. And I will remind you, damage is on in this. Whilst it, you can have like bent suspension stuff, it makes things really, really tricky in the braking zone. This might be on for Chinchik.
Doesn't fancy it this time, gives him a little nudge. Nevertheless, it's quite Formula E in that the damage is on, but,
but
they still hit each other and don't really get much damage. There you can see Jano Opmir has had a great race here, making up 5 places if he can hold on ahead of Graham Carroll. Rasmussen is on the final lap of the race, and the thing is, if he wins this, it's going to be a huge. I was going to say the most stupid thing ever. It's going to be a huge help for his
it does help.
Challenge of winning Formula E Accelerate London this evening.
Does he have the fastest lap? Oh, as we got Yuri Toman and that'll be Erhan Yovsky going side by side. Yovsky looking back to the inside to try and get past his normally sim racing teammate. But in this, no team colours, they are going wheel to wheel as hard as they can. And Yovsky was looking feisty there, trying to pick up at least 1 position on Toman.
So Rasmussen on the final lap of the race. It is Bono House who is in 2nd position and would pick up 18 points. So he'd be 10 points back from Freddie Rasmussen going into the final race. Graham Carroll is running in 3rd position. Berliak is there in 5th position. Sorry, Carroll's in 4th, I should say. Chinchik in 6th, 7th at the moment for Toman. He's still under pressure from Yovsky, although that fight has faded a little bit. And then Wisniewski is in 9th position with Spezia in 10th, and Daly missing out on the top 10 at the moment. But here's Freddie Rasmussen. Lights to flag, domination from the Porsche driver across the line, and he carries on in Formula E Accelerate where he left off as the race winner in the first race of the evening. The reigning champion takes the victory. Bono House finishing in 2nd place, and Jano Opmir completing the podium. Jano Opmir completing the podium positions with a 3rd place finish. Carroll doing well in 4th. He's going to be frustrated that he didn't manage to get ahead of Opmir, but for Rasmussen, so long.
It kind of was aided by the incident on that very first lap to push Freddie Rasmussen ahead, like I said, with the 25 points of the race victory, the 3 points of pole position. Not 100% sure who had the fastest lap in that race, but based on how much of a gap that he made, I'd probably say it's hard pressed to go past Freddie Rasmussen, which means that he could be on at 28 points right now.
Yeah, absolutely. 29.
It's 29. I could do great. It is 29. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that's the 29 points up for grabs. Now, for those of you wondering, well, if he takes pole, he's won it. Not quite, because someone else could get the fastest lap and win the race. Here's a look at the results. I'll explain that in a moment. Here's a look at the results. The Tag Heuer Porsche of Frederick Rasmussen taking provisionally the win. Bono House in 2nd, Jano Opmir 3rd, Graham Carroll 4th, Peter Berliak in 5th, Chinchik, Toman, Yojovski, Wisniewski, Spezia, the 10-point scorers, and Ben Daly actually didn't get to the end in the Avalanche Andretti, so he ends up not being classified. The stewards will be having a look at some of those incidents. For me, there was nothing too dramatic. The only mystery really is going to be that opening lap contact with Bono House, I think it was, into the back of Wisniewski, turning him around. And if House gets a penalty, for example, that is going to change things dramatically. But we'll see what the stewards decide.
This is it. We've got like 3 stewards behind the scenes really looking over everything in every detail. And one of the joys of it being in sim racing rather than in real life is that you can see it from basically any angle that you want. And so they can really get to the right verdict.
Well, let's head over and hear from our race winner with Darren.
Thank you very much, Jack. Yes, I'm joined by Freddie Rasmussen. Freddie, a big congratulations. I mean, you were just having a race of your own. How was that for you?
Thank you. Yeah, the qualifying was really important to get it on pole. Luckily, I was able to do that, and then it was all about the first lap, whether I would get hit off or lose P1. I got a little bit of a hit in turn 1, but I luckily managed to continue, and then I thought there was some big pile up behind, and from there I was just alone.
Yeah, in your own world, living your best life. And how are you feeling now ahead of race 2? Feeling like you can do it again?
I hope so. It's going to be down to qualifying again, so we'll see who's the best there.
What did you make of the new qualifying format?
It was interesting, for sure. It's quite tricky to go out there, get 1 lap and get it right, so it's just about who gets it right at the right moment.
Well, wishing you all the best for the next one. Thank you very much, Freddie Rasmussen. Next to me is Ben Daly. Hello, Ben. Lovely to have you here. How did you find that?
That was very interesting. I managed to gain a few positions off the start, so I made the most of that. Had a good battle with Ellis, and then literally with a few corners to go, I ran out of battery. So it was an eventful race.
Yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Oh, definitely. This time I'll try and finish.
I believe in you. Well done. Thank you very much. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Darren. Yeah, great to have Ben Daly with us this evening.
Yeah, of course, well known in over the YouTube scene with his team at Marduk, of course. Races on F1 typically, that's normally where his scene is. But it's nice to see him taking part in some things a little bit. He said I had a chat with him earlier, a bit inexperienced with rFactor 2, but still comes along. Didn't necessarily finish a lap down. Obviously, I don't think it was classified at the end, but still.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a look at some of the moments from the race. Freddie Rasmussen leading pretty comfortably in the early stages. Bono House running in 2nd position, and Yuri Toman in 3rd. And it all went wrong, didn't it, for Toman? There was Rasmussen taking the attack mode, but Toman in the Jaguar here was running fairly comfortably, really, in 3rd place before it all kicked off.
He had a lot of pressure on his shoulders. That was the issue, is that he's feeling all of it behind. Once they all started taking the attack mode, you saw Graham Carroll trying to get past Jano Opmir. Jano Opmir making up a couple of positions after the 2 behind took attack mode and nearly made some progress in the early stages. Then he was on the rear end of Jano Opmir. He was trying to lead this train. A bit of a mistake from Yuri Toman that opened the door. A bit of contact between Toman and Opmir, and Opmir just cleared off with the 3rd.
Might have been my driver of the race, actually, Jano Opmir, making up those 5 places. 4 minutes to go. Toman was still swinging it around, coming through the switchback hairpins. This was the fight for 3rd. Opmir and Carroll got very robust, didn't it?
I've got to say, Graham Carroll might have been the most exciting, the most aggressive driver of the race, because he was really getting involved with things. You could see here as they were heading through the double hairpin, it's so tricky. Marcel Cinchik just into the rear end of Petr Bojak, and it just kind of pulled Bojak off of that train ahead, off of the back of Graham Carroll, who was able to comfortably cruise to 4th.
We had some great fighting at the end as Jajewski was trying to get 7th place off Yuri Toman, but the checker flag was for Freddie Rasmussen. 28 points for him at the top of the championship after pole. Again, not sure who got. He got the fastest lap as well. So Rasmussen did get the fastest lap. You can see from the little Tag Heuer sign at the top right. So 29 points for Freddie Rasmussen. Now this is what I was beginning to explain earlier. The 2nd race is weighted more heavily. So the only way Freddie Rasmussen can be stopped is for someone to take pole and win in the 2nd race, basically. So if they end up on equal points. Yeah. The driver who did it in the 2nd race is the driver who would win the title. So qualifying is going to be vital.
And Lewis, who do you think that person is going to be?
You know I'm going to say Freddie Rasmussen. You know I'm going to say Freddie Rasmussen.
No, that's going to challenge Freddie Rasmussen.
Oh, that's going to challenge. Oh, probably Bono. I mean, it depends on the penalties and stuff. You're looking behind the scenes. That's kind of like the tricky thing. Jano Opmir's consistency in that race was very impressive. Yeah. If he gets past on lap 1, then I think he's got that bulletproof consistency that can keep him ahead. But it's about getting past Freddie Rasmussen on lap 1. Now that kind of asks the question as to not only who's going to be the one to do it, but who's going to be really desperate on that first lap that knows it's now or never?
Also, don't get too carried away. We've got another qualifying session
That's true.
to come as well. So any mistake here and look, Rasmussen was mightily impressive in the first qualifying session. So you're a brave person if you think he's not going to pull it out the bag again in the second. But I'm backing Bono House for a. I don't know why. So my first.
I respect that.
My first ever commentary in my whole life, Bono House won 2008 Formula Sim Racing, the ACE Championship as it was called then. He won around Suzuka, and that was my first ever commentary. And Bono won it. He was about 14 or something at the time, I think. So
He won the first ever sim racing race that I watched,
Really?
which you commentated on. Yeah.
okay, well there we go.
Small
But so
world.
that's why I'm still backing Bono.
Bono.
I've been backing him now for 13 years. So why change the habits of a lifetime? That's depressing to say out loud.
Well, Bono, don't let Jack down, basically. But speaking of the sessions that we have left, let's take a look at our schedule. So here we go then. For the rest of the evening, we will be having our quarterfinals at 8:03, semi-finals 2 at 20 past 8. 41 past 8, we have our final 2, and then just before 9, we have our final race of the evening, which I have to say, I'm really excited about the fact that we have 2 races here.
Yeah.
That went really quickly, I feel. I want more action.
Yeah, well, I think we are going to get more action. We're running quite a bit ahead of schedule, to be honest. So I think that probably will get condensed down a little bit. But we'll be into the quarterfinals next. 15 minutes is not a huge amount of race time, and that's why it was so impressive to me. Jano Opmir making so much, 5 places in 15 minutes.
So incredible.
Yeah, remarkable.
It's one of the things that I've spoken about, like from my sim racing. I drove better than that, don't worry. Is that even in shorter races, 10, 15, 20-minute races, we're racing touring cars and stuff, you've still got to play the long game. It's still, long game is king. Looking after your tyres, saving energy. There's no point in going out on lap 1 and thinking, I'm going to take everything here. You've got to wait for attack mode. You've got to make sure you've got enough energy to reach the checkered flag. There's a lot to think about for these drivers in such a tiny, tiny space of time that with the pressure on the train, it's tricky.
Yeah, this was always how we raced each other for a couple of seasons in touring cars last year. The last 2 seasons, I think.
Yeah, we
and
did.
It would always be, I'd be at the end, tyres are gone, Bono, not Bono House, but, Bono, Pete Bonington, my tyres are gone, understeer.
Yeah.
McGlade just breezes through because he's been looking after my
You did
tyres.
win more races than me, though.
Did you not win?
I won 1.
I only won 1. Croft.
I thought, I know Croft win. Yeah, I remember that.
I only won
Well,
Croft.
gentlemen, as much as I'm enjoying you talk about whatever it is that you are talking about, we are going to take a quick ad break, but we will be back with race 2 very shortly. Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Formula E Accelerate. If you've just joined us now, thank you very much. You've just missed a very epic race one, but that's fine because we have some more action coming your way very shortly. My name's Darren Adetossier, alongside me is Jack Nichols and Lewis Brigade. I mean guys, what a race we just had.
Yeah, really good stuff. And now we're going to look ahead towards qualifying for the second race, because that's going to be absolutely crucial as ever to get that second race because that's going to be the one that decides the championship.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So Freddie Rasmussen won the first race, but if he has any kind of problems in this second qualifying and he's starting 5th on the grid, it's going to be tough for him.
I think the issue is as you found in your interview with Freddie, is that he's a little too cool and calm.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, yeah, I'm just here doing some racing stuff. And that calmness is so important
So
because whilst, yes, he can still get the most out of the car, the fact that he's not adding extra pressure to himself, it's almost scary to the rivals to think, how is someone like up for this much money, this calm? How do you do it? It's baffling.
I know. I mean, maybe you guys should take a leaf out of his book and then maybe you'll get a bit better at sim racing.
That's very true, but I think maybe we wouldn't be quite as good on television
Fair
if we were
enough.
cool and calm and collected. Certainly in commentary, I don't think it would be the vibe.
No, agreed. Well, fine. That commentary that you did then, it was amazing. You're about to do it in just a moment's time. But before then, I mean, I'm going to ask you your predictions, but I know what the answers are. So
Yeah, you're going for Bono.
Bono,
Yeah.
Freddie.
Freddie
Yeah.
Rasmussen. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that.
simple as that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's just see what the guys do then, shall we?
Absolutely.
Lego.
So, yeah. So I think we're going to have C group qualifying here, which is basically going to be a one-lap shootout in order to get through into the duels knockout. Now, there's not going to be a huge amount of jeopardy in it but there's going to be one driver, I think, of the real front runners that will miss out. So you still need to get it right, and you've only got one shot. And again, like the duels, you've only got one shot, one lap in order to get through.
Which means realistically, to get pole position around here, you need to get 4 good laps now, not 3. And that's kind of a big deal, that you've got to really make the most of every single lap that you're on the circuit. You can't afford to have one that's a little bit off.
Yeah, the groups are based on the free practice results from earlier on today. So whereas in real life Formula E, it is based on the championship positions and the odd numbered drivers go out together, i.e. 1st, 3rd, 5th, it's going to be that, but based on free practice too. So Rasmussen, Carroll, House, Opmir, Berliak and Daly will be out in one group together. I think they'll be in the second group that we'll see. And Chinchik, Wisniewski, Jojowski, Toman and Spezia are going to be out in the first group that we will see. So they're sort of alternating so that it's kind of an even and fair spread onto who gets through into the quarterfinals. And you also want to have a good session here because it's kind of like a playoff where the quickest driver goes against the slowest driver, etc. So where you place in these groups is actually quite important.
Well, I think for Bono, right, in obviously the qualifying session that we just had, if he gets a great lap in his second or first, then he might see Freddie in the final. But where he had it, he saw Freddie in the semi-final, which meant that he only started 3rd or 4th rather than being able to start on the front row. It's a big deal.
It's a very good point. Very astute point.
Thank you.
From
Sometimes
McGlade.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely nailed it. So that first qualifying group will be underway in a couple of moments' time. As I say, we're here in London's XL ahead of the 2 Formula E races that we've got coming up this weekend, which are rounds 13 and 14 of the FIA Formula E World Championship. Both get underway at 3 o'clock UK time on Saturday and Sunday afternoon, so make sure you join us for that because that championship is going down to the wire. But we've got this championship to decide first.
Indeed, I was going to say let's focus on the sim racing and not the real life driving. And we're going to go and highlight Bono. We've got a beautiful little video to show you guys going into everything. But yeah, shall we have a look at that?
Well, I think, because his biggest fan, maybe I'll do it. The man from the Netherlands started racing in 2004. Adaptable, he calls himself.
Ooh.
Adaptable, which is true. We see him sort of in multiple disciplines, don't we?
Yeah, it's an important feature in sim racing. Of course, one of the drivers that we've had at the Race at Home Challenge, obviously, a while ago, Kevin Siggy, one of the most adaptable people in sim racing. Bono's in that category. Whilst we normally see him in open wheelers of some category, it's more based on the fact that he can race over in F1 esports, he can race over this, with getting used to electric racing. And the adaptable thing is very important with a LAN event where you have to come in and get up to speed immediately.
LAN meaning?
Local area network. It means that we are here in person and the drivers are using a rig that they're not used to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can be a real difference for some of these drivers, because you can, and there is the
adaptable man.
The adaptable man, yeah.
Mr. Adaptable.
What a great great superhero he would be, the adaptable man.
Adaptable.
But yeah, he, as Lewis says, all of these drivers have such impressive kit at home, and the stuff they're racing on here is very good. The wheels and the pedals all provided by Fanatec, and the cockpits are really cool and pretty much brand new, but it's not what they're used to. You know, it's like you can wear the best shoes you've ever had, but they're going to rub if they're not your comfy old ones.
Today.
You know, what's wrong with my shoes?
Sorry.
Oh, no, we're not having another. Yeah.
Well, let's focus our attention back to Jano Opmir, because in race 1, he made up 5 places. I think his superhero name will be Mr. Make Up 5 Places.
That's catchy.
That's a good one. There we go.
Yeah.
Mr. Consistency. So for anyone who did miss that race, Lewis, could you talk through what he got up to?
Yeah, I mean, superb stuff to get himself up into third. It's a driver that really doesn't really need that much of an introduction. The fact that he's a 2-time F1 esports champion has achieved so much in such a short space of time. Last season finished in the top 5 in the championship in Formula E Accelerate. And like I said, I mean, he says that his main attribute is speed. I'd say it is just consistency. He was so clean, he was so careful in that race and just picked up the pieces when he needed to.
And he has such an interesting history, because as we saw, Bono's been racing since 2004 in esports. Jano only started in 2018. He was a real-world racing driver. He was part of the Renault Sport Academy. He was racing in the Formula Renault 2-litre championship around Europe, and maybe things in the real world didn't go quite according to plan, or certainly not how he would have wanted to, despite some strong results, honestly. And Renault were always, quite excited about Jano and about his potential. And then he switched now to esports, smashing it. Absolutely smashing it beyond belief, because he came out of nowhere, basically, right?
Yeah, really
and
did.
Suddenly he's the F1 esports champion 2 years in a row.
We love to see it.
Yeah.
Something else that we love to see is our Group 1 qualifiers who are ready to go right now.
Okay then, let's get underway with this first qualifying group, and there is Bono House. Every time I say Bono House, I have this panic that I've been saying Huis all evening.
Oh, well, I mean, we're definitely saying it wrong either way, don't you worry, because I know that some Dutch person will come up to us and say it's actually Us.
No, it's like,
okay.
I think it's like Bono House.
House,
Like
yeah.
House. House.
Yes, but when you say that and then you say that in front of them, they go, no, it's something, and I'm like, okay. Basically, we can't get anything right. What we can get right, though, is the fact that he is a very, very fast driver, is an incredible talent, and has a lot to do in this. He might have the issues in race 1, though, lingering in his head just a little bit, as he'll be racing around on this single lap qualifier in the group stages. There's a lot of pressure on these laps. You can't afford to make a mistake now.
No, indeed. Here comes House. Bit of a slide as he starts his lap, and one of the big hitters, is going to be eliminated from this group as he comes down into the first corner. House through the left and then the right, and then back out into the sunshine, and down the hill through this complex of corners down at the bottom before climbing up the other side towards Sandstone at turn 9 and out onto the back straight.
Yeah, looking very clean at the moment. This lap doesn't need to be ridiculously fast. I mean, yes, ideally you'd want to be right up there on the timesheets again for seeding going into the duels, but realistically speaking, it just needs to be a tidy lap. You need to guarantee that position. Can't afford a mistake as we ride on board with Graham Carroll, really throwing it around, I'd say a lot more aggressively than we saw from Bono House.
Okay, nice little slide on the exit as he comes down now towards turn 16. Graham Carroll onto the brakes, back end looking lively, gets a almost late apex past the hotel on the right hand side, and then through this right left sequence that takes him back up inside the XL So a reminder, it's the top 4 from this group that will be advancing through to the knockout stages in the duels. And here comes Graham Carroll across the line in the Dragon. And down in towards turn 1 again. This is also going to help them to get their eye in for their sort of one-lap shootouts that they'll be doing in the duels. So it will be helpful, I think, as you see Carroll there on the right-hand side. House is quicker than Carroll. Carroll is quicker than Toman, so that's a good lap from Bono House. Spezia moves into 4th place, and he's 2.9 seconds away, so it should be reasonable. And Opmir goes quickest, 4 thousandths quicker than Bono Huis, so Opmir goes fastest. House in 2nd, I know I did it differently that time. Carroll 3rd, and Toman in 4th spot. And those are the 4 that go through.
Yeah, again, like a super effort. But this is the group as well with Freddie Rasmussen in, I do believe. Not sure whereabouts he is at the moment, because they were in the same group. Wisniewski, rather, goes into 5th place of this. So not sure as to Wisniewski's time's really not strong there, being half a second off.
Yeah, absolutely. Rasmussen, Carroll. Yeah, you're right. I was expecting Rasmussen to be out in this group as well. So those appear to be the 6 drivers that we've had out there then, with Toman there in 4th position, 3/10 away. But Wisniewski, after starting 2nd on the grid for race 1, doesn't look as though he's making into the duels in this second part of in this second race. So that's a real shame for Wisniewski. Not that he was necessarily in contention anyway, but Opmir and House making it through, and that's also a more encouraging lap from Jano Opmir, you have to say, because he and Bono House have been sort of right together, and in the end it's House that comes out on top, and they're teammates at Mercedes, or at least have been recently. No,
they don't live that far away realistically. They presently based up in Brackley, so it's, obviously it's their HQ. I've got to say, super lap time, but the big shock in there is Wisniewski. If his day wasn't done before, it certainly is now.
Yeah.
What about you, Jack? Any surprises there?
No, I think Wisniewski is the big one. Wisniewski, and he's going to be... Thing is, as Lewis said, like, he finished right down towards the back, 9th, I think, in that first race. So he's only got 2 points on the board. The prize pool gets lower the lower down you go, and so once you're in fighting for those lower positions, but actually if he could have a good result here, if he could have had a good result here, he could have jumped a long way up the order. So that's going to be a frustrating one for him, as we're back in now for the second group.
Is Freddie.
And there is Freddie Rasmussen. So he's out in this second group.
Yeah, it's going to be a strong one for sure. But Freddie Rasmussen, the man to beat in this session, only has to beat a 21.9 though to top qualifying, and he could do a 21.3.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Again, the lap time doesn't hugely matter in this group stage. It's all about getting into the quarterfinals and then the battle for pole in the final. So here comes Rasmussen, winds it up out of the final corner and comes out across the line. There you can see him in the inset on the top right, through the left. It's pretty upright, I feel.
Yeah, you're also quite close to the wheel, which I know some drivers are quite used to, because some drive from odd positions. Yuri Toman's actually one who drives very, very close to the wheel in quite a straight up position. Some drive in a very low down position. Again, this is the whole thing of your rig at home fits you, and then you come here and you're kind of, is this quite right? Am I quite close enough? Am I right at centre? It doesn't really matter so much for Rasmussen. I think we should take a guess on what lap time this is going to be. I'm going for a 0.6.
I'm going 21.8. I'm going 0.8. I think this is looking a bit scruffy, so I'm saying it's actually looking absolutely fantastic from Freddie Rasmussen, as one would anticipate, as he comes now down towards the right-hander. Again, the big win in Formula E Accelerate, because he'd been runner-up, I think, in F1 Esports in the Drivers' Championship for maybe a couple of years in a row, and just never quite had the win in him. But the points he was picking up for the Constructors' Championship when he was alongside Marcel Kiefer at one point?
I think it was Kiefer, Red Bull,
And he picked up a load of points there, and that's what won them the Constructors. Right, what is the lap time? It is 21.4.
Very wrong.
21.480. Rasmussen just gets quicker and quicker and quicker. He's quicker than Erhan Yuyovski, who comes across the line in second place in the DS Techeetah by half a second. Quicker than Yuyovski. Berliak slots into third place, 1.2 seconds away. And Chinchik moves up into second spot. So Berliak looks like he's going to be under a bit of pressure on the bubble as we have a couple more corners to go for the Andretti. Through the left-hander comes Daly out across the line. Is he going to be able to challenge Berliak? No, 5.5 seconds adrift in the end for Ben Daly, so maybe a mistake or two out there, or three really, with 5.5 seconds off the piece. But it is Rasmussen, Chinchik, Yayovsky and Berliak who advance through to the duels.
Yeah, got to say, Berliak there with a pretty substantial mistake to be 1.2 seconds off. That's not where I would expect him to be. But what did he do in the previous race? He worked his way up. He was clean. He was consistent. And there's this thing that a lot of the drivers know on the rFactor 2 platform is that if you don't see Pit Berliak in qualifying, you'll see him in the race because he'll be ahead of you. He's very good at just coming through in order.
There is Ben Daly, who will qualify at the back for this one. And he will be 11th for Avalanche Andretti. That's where he will start on the grid. And so we have our... No, Wisniewski's the big one, isn't he, that still missed out. No huge surprises in that qualifying group, I don't think. Berliak missed out, as we said, in the first qualifying session as well and still came through the order. So it's all to play for now in the duels.
In the duels.
In the duels.
But before the duels, we're going to take a quick ad break, but we'll catch you guys shortly. So we're back and it's time for the duels, which is honestly my favourite part of a race weekend, I have to say. Obviously, today it's not a weekend. We've crammed it all into a wonderful 3.5-hour session for you. But yeah, what do you think is going to happen in this duel session?
It's impossible to call. I think that's the fun about them is we've got such big hitters going head to head, as we saw in the first batch of qualifiers. Anyone who's up against anyone can beat them ultimately. You know, you look at these head to heads. Chinchik versus Wisniewski, tough to call. Opmir versus Carroll, that's a really tough one to call. Rasmussen versus House, they could be facing against each other in the semi-final.
And that tells me that Bojak's lap might have been called off because Wisniewski moves up into that quarterfinal against Marcel Chinchik, who'll be pretty feisty to get on with things. Obviously, Wisniewski will as well after the issues in race 1, but Chinchik's not maybe had the round so far that he would have expected, purely based on pace. He looked really fast in practice, now not so much.
Yeah, and he's one of the few drivers here that didn't do the formula. In fact, I think he's the maybe the only
two. There was
two.
him and Toman.
Him and Toman.
You were right earlier.
Yeah. I'd forgotten that I'd said it earlier. But yeah, Chinchik and Toman, two who didn't do Formula E Accelerate last time out. Everybody else is quite used to these cars, but for Marcel Chinchik, it's all a bit new for him, really.
Well, let's talk a bit more about Chinchik.
Yeah, he's a very impressive driver, as we've seen, getting very committed in the early stages. The Hungarian who's been gaming since 2008, and sim racing is my work by, did it say passion or obsession?
I don't know. Probably they're both.
Yeah, exactly. Passion and obsession. So yeah, Chinchik out in the Nissan, and we saw him having some good fights in those in that first race, and he feels like he's got podium potential if qualifying goes his way.
He's a feisty driver. Again, recently one of the ones that's been picked up by Roman Grosjean's eSports team that is incredibly strong in the world of sim racing to be teammates with Erhan Yovsky. Certainly a driver to keep an eye on, especially, I have to say, in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. He's really found his form. Used to race for a team called Varga alongside Yuri Toman, and so he's got a good connection there. And every kind of event that you see him, he seems to move his way forward. This has started out maybe a little bit disappointing in that sense, but he's got a lot more to show.
Well, he's out on track because he is in the first of our quarterfinal duels, and he comes around through the double hairpins on his warm-up lap and gets ready to try and advance through to the semi-finals. Now, in the first qualifying session, he was also out in the first quarterfinal up against Yuri Toman and was eliminated. So if he makes it through to the semi-final, it'll be for the first time. Look how good the water looks. I've just noticed that on the left-hand side. That looks tremendous, doesn't it?
It's moving pretty quick, I'll say that. Marcel Chinchik did go out with a 22.296 as well. Now that tells me, bearing in mind they're going for low 22s normally, even into the high 21s, that there was a substantial mistake. Now this is a redemption, and he'll kind of know roughly what time Nico did in the one that got him through against Erhan Yovsky. And Nikodem Wisniewski did a 22.0, so that's kind of like the ballpark roughly to aim for.
So those are the two drivers facing off against each other down into the first corner. And it is through turns 1 and 2 for Chinchik. Again, we will see the tower on the left-hand side comparing him and Nikodem Wisniewski's lap time. Look at the oversteer as he slides his way through turn 5. Who is quickest through the first couple of corners? Chinchik or Wisniewski? Wow, it's Wisniewski, but just by 0.008 of a second. That's tight.
Certainly is. Looks at him kicking the car out, coming out of T9 down towards double hairpin. Now we'll see this again, this big bit of oversteer. You can see how much it squirms on the brakes as they try and put all that power down. You can see Wisniewski losing a quarter of a second on that race up towards a double hairpin. So Chinchik's looking pretty strong. Of course, Chinchik will be the first one to set a time here as they head down towards T16, arguably the hardest part of the circuit, because as you go up and over these bumps, you tend to lose out the rear a little bit. You'll see how much it squirms coming into T16.
Less than a tenth between them. Wisniewski, remember, qualified on the front row of the grid for the first race. Chinchik is the man with the advantage at the moment, with less than a tenth of a second between them all, but big mistake from Wisniewski. Chinchik now has a huge advantage into the final couple of corners, and Chinchik is going to come across the line, and it is going to surely be enough to send him through. It's a 21.562. That's pretty quick.
That is very impressive from Marcel Chinchik. Nikodem Wisniewski looking to do a mid-22, so he's certainly not going through in this scenario for the Neo 323 team. But for Marcel Chinchik, that 21.5, that is a massive, massive confidence booster moving into the semi-finals. Super lap time for the Hungarian.
Huge, huge that from Chinchik. So we spoke about him a moment ago, and he's managed to do a 21.562 and advance into the semi-finals. Very nice
I
stuff.
think he might be a bit relaxed after maybe a not great first race. He might think, okay, that's happened now. Let me give myself a bit of a breather and kind of just bring myself back into this race and just try and rescue something.
Yeah, 6th position he was, Chinchik, in that first race. Now, here comes Jano Opmir in the Mercedes, down into the first corner, 3rd after starting 8th for the first race. What can he do in qualifying for the second? Because you get the feeling if he can beat Graham Carroll and qualify towards the front of the order, he's going to have a chance. We'll see who was quicker through the first sequence of corners in a moment when we get Graham Carroll's first sort of mini sector split, and Opmir's 3/10 up.
He did have a big kick of oversteer coming out of T8 though, and obviously that is fine in these kind of cars when you're putting the power down in qualifying mode, pushing it quite hard at the moment. Obviously this is the thing, is that whilst we know what the gaps are between them in the micro sectors, they definitely do not. They only know when they cross the line as to what time their direct rival's done.
Carroll almost 4/10 down. Coming down into turn 16 now for Jano Opmir. Swings it through the right. That back end is loose. Keeps it together, but he's now almost half a second up on Graham Carroll. Can Carroll maybe try and find a bit of time through turn 16? Opmir about to come back indoors. Carroll can find a little bit of time, less than 4/10, but this has looked neat enough for Opmir. You can see him focusing there on the right-hand side.
Deadly focus at the moment from the Dutch two-time F1 esports champion. What does he do across the line? 21.6. They are going much faster in these duels than they did in the previous one. They've got that confidence, they've got their eye in, and they are flying right now.
These lap times are rapid. Here comes Carroll through the final corner. He's 4/10 down, so he might be in the 22s here. Comes through and it is a 22.121, which is quicker than Wisniewski managed, but it is not enough to see him advance through to the semi-finals. So it'll be Chinchik versus Opmir in semi-final number 1.
I say going to be a tough one, especially considering they're both PBing now. That's the really important bit. If you're finding your personal best in these kinds of qualifying sessions, you're building with that confidence. It's tough to beat. It might well give you enough speed to maybe take on this man, Freddie Rasmussen, looking to take another pole potentially.
Big lap here for Freddie Rasmussen, the driver who is leading the Formula E Accelerate series this evening here in London, and a big lap here in a pole position will put him in prime position to take home the biggest share of the €100,000 prize pool. He's up against Yuri Toman. Oh, he just threads it. He just threads it so beautifully. Toman's had a good first few corners. He's only a 1,000th down on Rasmussen though.
I think that might change though by the time they get towards double hairpin. Watch Freddie Rasmussen through here. It is like watching a perfect rally driver. It's as if he's done his practice playing on one of the rally games. This time though, much more clean. Do you see that? He didn't really try and kick the rear end out. Now maybe that's because he's confident enough that he can beat Yuri Toman here with a tidy lap and not take the risk. But it was a lot tidier there than we expected.
Rasmussen 2/10 up on Toman. We'll see what split we get in a moment. And Toman is catching. As he say, he got a little bit closer through the double hairpin. This is a big pressure moment now for Freddie Rasmussen. A couple more corners to go. How is Toman going through the turn 16 sequence of corners? Oh, it's big.
Whoa.
There's Rasmussen surely through to the semi-finals. Yuri Toman was right there, but he's lost a lot of time in turn 16. So out comes Rasmussen across the line, and it's a 21.619, still a quick lap. And enough to send him through to the semis. Here comes Yuri Toman, big slide, big oversteer. Rear end very loose, out across the line. 22.383 for Toman.
A little faster than Nikodem Wisniewski, but like I say, that was a very tidy lap from Rasmussen. Not quite the level of risk. Again, we know that he's got a 0.3 in the bag. He can go 3/10 faster than what he's presently doing. Fair enough, did not need to risk it in this session. He just needs to get a nice tidy lap to get ahead of Yuri Toman and move himself on into the semis. Now, this one, Erhan Yujovski versus Bonnerhaus. It'll be a big one. The favourite, though, definitely on Bonnerhaus, but Yujovski's finding his pace.
Here comes the DS Cheetah across the line. He will be the first of the drivers to start their laps. Quite a lot of curb in the first corner. Right up to the Tech Pro on the exit. Yujovski now back outside and almost power sliding his way through 4 and 5. House has just started his lap. Down towards turn 9 for Yayovsky, and he's half a tenth up after the first couple of corners compared to Bono House.
Yeah, looking very clean as well. Yayovsky is a two-time GT Pro champion on the rFactor 2 platform. He knows his way around the platform a little bit too deep, though, into the first of the double hairpins. It doesn't really get on the power quite as clean. I think this might well switch. It goes out a little bit more in favour of the Macedonian at the moment, who could well deny Bono House, but I think this might swing just a little bit. It wasn't quite as tidy through that double hairpin section, which is so crucial for lap time.
This is very, very big for Bono House, second in the championship and the main contender. Oh, that's deep from Yayovsky into the hairpin. So Yayovsky's advantage is over a tenth and a half now, but how much time did he lose going wide at turn 16? You can see him there on the right-hand side. Coming up inside, and there's the answer. House gains a huge chunk through turn 16. Slide from Yayovsky out across the line. He sets a 1 minute 21.962, still a good lap. But Bono House, I think, is going to be quicker. The gap is closing. It's less than a tenth of a second. It's quite a big slide from House. That didn't look neat and tidy. Out across the line. Who's into the semis? Oh, it's Yayovsky.
Wow.
House is eliminated. Yayovsky is through.
Absolutely incredible. A 22.051 from Bono House. I'm baffled. Just could not quite get it together. And Erhan Yayovsky makes his way into the semi-finals. So we're seeing some big drama, and this is a massive swing towards the likes of Jano, Opmir and Freddie Rasmussen.
Yeah, it's huge for Freddie Rasmussen as far as the championship is concerned, because second in the standings on 18 points, Bono House, and he will be starting at best 5th on the grid. In fact, I think it will be 5th.
I think it will be
the best
fifth.
lap. Yeah,
yes, because it's 21, 22, 24.
Yeah, agreed. So he will be 5th on the grid, Bono House, but he's going to have his work cut out from there, isn't he? That's tough. So like you say, Opmir is the one now with the big opportunity, and he's got to be the main focus to try and stop Freddie Rasmussen at the front.
Now, you had a little chat with Bono after the race, just to sort of see what was going on. What did he tell you? What are the secrets?
Not really. He said he was going to go for it in the second qualifying, but obviously it hasn't quite worked out. He had contact with Wisniewski on the opening lap, which I think gave him a 5-second time penalty, but he still managed to keep that second place. And it's just not quite the lap that he would have wanted. And so Jano Opmir is going to be the one to try and deny Rasmussen. They might meet in the final, but first Opmir has to beat Cinčić and Rasmussen has to beat Yayovsky, who bit of a return to form from Erhan Yayovsky there.
Yeah, it really is. Very, very impressive. Like I said, 21.9. That's a time that we would expect it to be quite easy for Bono House to beat. Certainly a time that we expect Freddie Rasmussen to beat, but Bono didn't beat it. Maybe Freddie won't beat it. The first semi-final, though, I think is going to be incredibly close. Jano Opmir versus Marcel Cinčić, two drivers that have PB'd. Now, over the previous session, their times were separated by, I think it was just 9 thousandths of a second or 8 thousandths of a second between their two personal best time now. So this is going to be a tight one.
Yeah, Cinčić versus Opmir is going to be the first of the semi-finals that we will see, and then it will be to see the second one. And actually, the man we're talking about, the man of the moment, the man who will be going out in the semi-final in a moment, Marcel Cinčić, is with Darren.
He is indeed. And Marcel, I think that you have earned that title that we gave you earlier of Mr. Feisty. How are we feeling ahead of the duels with Freddie Rasmussen?
Yeah, it's for sure. It's a really great feeling. Like. I knew on the previous quali that I have still more time, but I was making mistakes. But now this time it was working out properly, so I'm much more happy.
And what do you think of this track? You enjoying it?
Yeah, for sure. A lot. Very tricky, very hard, but if you have the rhythm, it's really, you can be really fast on that.
Fantastic. Well, wishing you all the best for the duels. Thank you.
Thanks.
All about rhythm.
Yeah,
Lewis,
really
as you showed earlier on in the track.
So let's not talk about it. that was an hour ago now. Let's never go back to it. It's certainly a part of history that I'm going to try and delete.
Chirpy Cinčić.
Yeah, looked comfortable. I mean, he's seemed pretty relaxed all weekend. Yeah, I've had a couple of conversations with him. He's very relaxed. He's excited about the opportunity to race in something like this. And when you start to click, especially going into the all-important second race, it just kind of builds and builds and builds. And that's what we're kind of seeing at the moment.
Danger of overcooking it.
For sure.
Once you think, oh, I'm doing so great, I'll just break another 10 meters later.
For sure. I found. But no, it's like I say, it's a big confidence booster for him. Might be a little bit too much, but Cinčić's got the experience in sim racing to manage to hold himself. And like I say, he's got a bit of a challenge here with Jano Opmir that he's going to be taking on in the first of the semi-finals. I think he can do it, but Jano Opmir, when he's starting to PB and when he's had a third place finish, that is not a driver I'd want to go up against.
Well, exactly. And if Opmir can get a front row start, he's got a real shot of winning this championship, especially if he can take pole position up against Freddie Rasmussen. But we'll get onto that later. One step at a time. And first of all, he's got to beat Marcel Chinchik here. Down into the turn 16 we go. And this is on board with Opmir. We're on the outlaps at the moment. Just getting all the tyres and everything into temperature. That's why you see him doing the full lock, is to try and get as much temperature as possible in those front tyres, because just like real Formula E tyres, they are road tyres, basically, all-weather purposes. They're sort of race road tyres, let's say, and it's not as easy to get temperature into them as it is a slick tyre.
No, you also put a lot of temperature into the rear tyres with all the power going down, which means you don't really work the fronts quite as much, so you want to bring them up into the temperature windows. Why they work the fronts and not really the rears too much. The rears do it for themselves. Marcel Chinchik, though, slides his way into the first corner at the moment as he'll prepare himself to leave the XL, coming through 4 and 5, hook it up quite nicely. Looking pretty tidy in that first sector from Marcel Chinchik, and once again, just sliding it beautifully as they head down the hill. The two of them separated by 7 thousandths of a second, and the advantage of Jano Opmir in that first micro sector.
Very, very close between them in the early stages. You can see on the right-hand side there the sort of nerves almost for Chinchik as he tries to keep his breathing and turn into the right-hander. Not a huge amount of lock actually for Chinchik through there.
No, he did lock the brakes just a little bit. This is where they're trying to throw the rear end in a little bit, so they don't have to put in a full rotation or anything like that. And that's why, whoa, look at that swing though. Jano Opmir now 4/10 clear, going over the splits. Big lock up though on the rear end. He's just trying to get it. That is perfect. That is proper Monte Carlo rally-esque.
Very good stuff from Chinchik. He's actually closing the gap a little now to Jano Opmir. There's less than 0.3 of a second between them. Chinchik is going to be the first across the line as he comes up through the right-hander now. Now the left. Look at the focus as he corrects and gets on the power. Chinchik still catching a little bit. He does a 1:22.0. Opmir should be able to beat that. Has a couple of goes at getting it out of the final corner, but manages it. A 22.06 for Chinchik, but it is Opmir that manages to progress through to the final. So the man who's third in the standings after race 1 will be on the front row of the grid for race 2. Will he be alongside this man, Freddie Rasmussen, the championship leader, the winner of race 1? Can he get through to the final? To do it, he has got to beat Erhan Yuyovsky. The two going head to head once again, as they did through the whole first season of Formula E Accelerate.
Yeah, like I said, top two in the championship. The top two finished that season separated by just 8 points, with the advantage going the way of this man, Freddie Rasmussen, taking that title in that final round in that fantastic battle at Rome. The battle here seems a little bit less tight. Rasmussen with the advantage on speed, but this lap needs to be perfect. You cannot make a mistake when you're against someone of the quality of Erhan Yuyovsky, throwing it through 6, 7 and 8, and then up towards 9 and onto the back stretch, looking pretty clean once again every single time from Freddie Rasmussen. He's so in control.
And the gap is almost 0.2 of a second at the moment. Down he comes towards the switchback hairpins. Turns it in. Gets it round. And same with the other. Yuyovsky's closing the gap a little. 1/10 between them. A neat run through the hairpins and Yuyovsky's got a shot.
A confident Yuyovsky is a dangerous prospect, and Rasmussen will know that at the best of times. It's currently a 10th separating, but what is it like coming down into T16? A lot cleaner than Marcel Chinchik did it, but Yuyovsky is keeping very, very close. There cannot be a single mistake. Freddie Rasmussen has to push in this final sector. Surely he knows that.
Just over 1/10 of a second between them. Here he comes now, back towards the inside of the XL. Once more, the gap grows to almost 0.2 of a second, so a neat and tidy final few corners from Rasmussen should be enough to book himself a place in the final. Out across the line, he does a 21.447. This is going to be a quick one from Yuyovsky, but will it be quick enough? The gap grows again to almost 0.3 of a second. Nice through the penultimate corner. Nice rotation through the final corner as well. Comes across the line, closes the gap, but not by enough. A 21.6, so Yuyovsky will be in third on the grid, but Freddie Rasmussen and Jano Opmir will be through to the final to battle it out for pole position and the 3 points that come with it. Rasmussen is just in He's just in unbelievable form. There he is there in Andre Lotterer's race helmet in the game, but just unbelievable form, Rasmussen. And
Just comfortable.
Once he gets into these zones, he's just unstoppable.
Well, the thing is, confidence in sim racing, and same as in motorsport, is that once you have that level of confidence, you can kind of reach like a different level that it's almost unbelievable, that consistency that you can find, because you're just one with the car. And as much as that is something which we see a lot in motorsport, when you see those drivers rise to the top, it is the same in sim racing. If you're feeling confident, you're feeling comfortable, if you're not having to really think about how to drive, you're just doing it and it works, it makes you unbeatable in that sense. But Yuyovsky did a very, very good job. To PB with a 21.6 to really get that close, very impressive.
Do you see much of Freddie Rasmussen around the sort of rFactor world?
so much.
Because compared to your Yuyovskis and your Berliaks, who are sort of in every sim race that you ever see, Rasmussen sort of seems to be a little more, what's the word? Not picky, but a bit more focused on different events.
Yeah, he's more reserved. I think he did do Le Mans Virtual, has done a couple of little bits here and there, but for the most part, not really does keep to himself, mostly racing on the F1 eSports stuff, but it shows that when he wants to, man, he's fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the man who is going to be trying to stop him in the final is Jano Opmir. He is with Darren.
Jano, how confident are you that you will stop him?
It's going to be difficult. Freddie has been so consistent both qualifying sessions so far, and also in the race he completely dominated. So I think he has the upper hand. As I've struggled quite a bit in quali, also in the last one, I was down in P8. So yeah, we're going to have to wait and see. Of course, it's very tricky, as you all have to do it in one lap. So mistakes can be made, but yeah, it's not going to be easy.
Wishing you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that is something to consider with Jano Opmir, isn't it? He was 8th in the first qualifying, as he just said there, didn't get up to speed, but he finished 3rd. So even if he loses here to Rasmussen, it's not over at all.
No, absolutely not. Like, he's shown the ability to make up positions over a race, and that's kind of like the important bit is, again, he's carrying that confidence that, okay, even if it is only one car that I need to pass, I've just passed 5 in the previous one. I'm okay with just the one. It's going to make that race down into T1 so tricky. The extra pressure now that we've got, again, 2 that are high up there in the championship. Freddie Rasmussen would prefer it with someone like Marcel Cintuk, who didn't have a great first race.
Rasmussen versus Opmir then in the final for pole position for round 2 of Formula E Accelerate London this evening, as we come up to 8:30 here in London. Rasmussen versus Opmir, after Opmir beat Cintuk in the semi-final and Rasmussen beat Yuyovsky in the semi-final. Again, we're on that whole sensible money is for Rasmussen, but Opmir has the ability to pull things out of the bag at times. And like I say, it's not all down to this, but in the final, Rasmussen versus Opmir, those 3 points are going to be crucial as well. Because if Opmir can nab the 3 points, that'll help him a lot as well.
100%, but do remember, we've seen these two on circuit in the first qualifying session. That was in the quarterfinals. Freddie Rasmussen did a 21.7, Jano Opmir did a 22.2. Now, I'd say based on that, Freddie Rasmussen has to go faster than a 21.7 to nab this pole position, because Jano Opmir is feeling that confidence. He's feeling that ability level. He's understanding the car a lot more. I'm going to say pole here might need to sort of linger on the 21.4, 21.3 that Freddie Rasmussen did in the first qualifying session that we had.
So, here comes the final. The last duel of the qualifying sessions this evening here at Formula E Accelerate in what has been such an intense competition. What can Freddie Rasmussen do as he gets on the power out of the final corner? Can he take the second pole position of the night? Can he build up a huge championship lead going into the final race later on this evening? He comes through turns 1, 2 and 3, and then out through 4 and 5. Keep your eyes on the tower on the left-hand side. That'll tell you who is on provisional pole as they make their way around the lap. The first split comes here on the run down through, and Rasmussen is 800ths up on Opmir after the first split. Through the right-hander of turn 9, out onto the back straight towards the double hairpins. And it is Rasmussen, who we're on board with here in the Porsche, who has the advantage at the moment. Turns it in, one nice, neat movement, and now it's over 0.2 of a second in the advantage of Rasmussen. And he just doesn't look stressed. I think everyone else looks like they're trying. He doesn't look like he's trying when you look at his face. Look at his face.
Yeah, he's just super, super calm. And again, that means that he's focused. He's not thinking about anything else. Comes down into T16, not quite as sideways as some others. Does manage to throw it out just at the last moment. So he's taking the full brake potential and just throwing it in right at that last moment to kick it through. It's a beautiful lap at the moment from Freddie Rasmussen, and one that might well beat Jano Opmir, but Opmir's coming stronger in this final sector.
This is going to be tight. Opmir's done well. Rasmussen into the final turn. The lap time will give us a read on how good it was. It was a 21.493, and he's built the gap a little bit more to Jano Opmir, 0.2 of a second. Can Opmir do anything to fight back as he comes into the final couple of corners out across the line? And it is Rasmussen on pole, a 21.627 for Jano Opmir. Very, very quick lap time, but not enough to stop Freddie Rasmussen taking another pole position. Another 3 points to add to his championship, so he's now up to 32 points at the top of the standings. And a win now for Rasmussen, and he is the champion.
Yeah. But the thing is the risk's high. You know, we know it with we know these tight circuits now. You know, we know what they're like. We saw it in the previous race. Nikodem Wisniewski went round. There's no reason why that couldn't be Freddie Rasmussen, wrong place, wrong time, and someone else just lightly into the back of him, sends him out at the wrong time.
But he's looking pretty unstoppable.
I was going to say, I have a feeling that would be happening to Freddie anytime soon. I think that he has just shown how talented and skilled he is. And obviously, Lewis, you have that insight into the sim racing world. Is it fair to say that he's probably one of the best?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of, yes, it's of course it's the answer you can have. The 9 sim drivers that we have, the ones that have come through, of course, they're the very, very best. Freddie Rasmussen has won a lot in the world of sim racing, obviously 2-time Constructors' Championship in F1 Esports, as well as winning countless other things. He's taken part in some top-level competitions on multiple simulators. He's one of the very best for a reason, and he's showing it now, and of course winning the championship last year.
Yeah.
It was very close between them, though, wasn't it? And I think Opmir did well to be that close, but he's just so smooth through these corners. And I mean, you see what I mean, Darren, don't you? He just looks like he's not trying. Everybody else has got a furrowed brow and an intense look on their face. And you'll see even Opmir, if we see him in the final couple of corners, you know, really trying. But Rasmussen's just so chill.
So chill, it's incredible, honestly. Even just before we were having our chat, we were having, you know, just a lovely conversation. I'm like, how are you able to focus like this and just be so, you know, as you said, chilled?
And what was his answer?
What, to our chat?
Yeah, because I really want to know.
We were actually talking about last year's Accelerate and obviously the prize pool. Remember in the show, Freddie said that he wanted to buy a flat. He's bought his flat.
Oh, really?
So, Freddie, my question to you later on is going to be, what are you going to do if, of course, this is Formula E, everything is unpredictable. But Jack, that is what I wanted to talk to you about. For people who are new to Formula E, before we head into the race in just a few moments' time, what sort of things should they look out for? Because obviously here at Formula E, we're all about our unique selling points, but for people who haven't tuned in before, they might not be aware of what's exactly happening.
Yeah, well, the two key things in this particular racing that we've got this evening is the attack mode and the energy management. Now, the attack mode is where you go offline down at turn 16 and you get a 13% power boost for 90 seconds. You have to do that, so you have to lose places, and we saw people gain and lose a lot through that in the race earlier on today. The other is energy management. Now, fuel usage is a thing in esports, especially in something like the 24 Hours of Le Mans. You are actually, you know, cautious of using fuel and lifting and coasting, but the regeneration of energy through the brakes, that's completely unique in esports, I think.
Yeah,
sim racing.
No, for sure, especially in such a short period. Well, as you say, it's a staple in endurance racing of any kind. You know, even if it's 24, 6 hours, whatever it is, it's a known quantity that you're going to be fuel saving to some degree. But to do it in a 15-minute race, to have the regen as well, which does make the car drive a little bit different. You know, obviously the regen going to the rear tires, and that is simulated that it kind of can make the tires lock a little bit. You can use that to your advantage, going into the hairpins, getting a little bit more energy into the battery whilst also trying to slide your way around. Looks cool, but it's kind of one of those tricky things that you don't really see anywhere else in sim racing in this kind of context in such a short period.
Yeah, in just the same way you don't really see it in any other types of motorsport in quite the same way.
Yeah, very unique indeed. Well, it is now time to take a look at our starting grid. I mean, we've got to the point in the evening where it's time to go racing. It's all relying on this. €100,000 prize pool, a VIP trip to the Seoul E-Prix. Let's see what happens in this final race of Formula E Accelerate.
So Petr Berliak lining up in 9th place on the grid, Nikodem Wisniewski in 8th, Yuri Toman 7th, Graham Carroll 6th, Bono House in 5th position. He's second in the championship. He needs to make progress. Chinchik in 4th place, Erhan Yayovski 3rd for the DS Techeetah team. Jano Opmir is the man who can stop Freddie Rasmussen, but he needs some bad luck to befall Rasmussen. If Opmir wins and Rasmussen is second, Rasmussen the champion. Opmir wins, Rasmussen is third, Rasmussen the champion. Opmir wins, Rasmussen is fourth, then I get my calculator out and start to look at it. Here is the championship at the moment. You can see the gap between Rasmussen and Huis is pretty big. It is 17 points between Rasmussen and Opmir. So basically, the long and short of it is, Opmir needs to win with Rasmussen finishing first or second. I think that's about right, right?
Oh, I've always been told never to trust a commentator's maths.
No, I know. The reason I'm a commentator is because I failed my maths A-level,
exactly.
so this is absolutely true. But the gap is 17 points, right? And you get 18 points for second place. So
yes,
broadly speaking, it needs to be a first or second for Rasmussen and a non-finish for, first or second for Opmir and a non-finish for
There needs to be some, like you say, luck involved here a little bit. But the thing is, for Jano Opmir, he needs to kind of put that out of his mind and focus on what he can do. He can't do anything more than win the race. He can't do anything more than win the race and get fastest lap. That's what he needs to focus on. Can't think about the permutations and what could happen. Just focus on what you can do.
Yeah. So we're about to get going. The charge down towards turn 1 about to begin. It's Freddie Rasmussen on pole position. Can Opmir get him off the start? That's going to be the crucial part of this race. There will be attack mode to come later on. There will be the energy management too. But the run down towards the first corner could be the thing that decides the destination of the championship. Here come the lights. Away we go. Pretty decent start, and look how aggressive Rasmussen is off the line. Straight over to cover off Opmir. Opmir sends it to the outside at turn 1. Doesn't quite have the grip, does he? There's a bit of contact, but Rasmussen holds the lead. They're still side by side. Opmir knows he needs to try and get through as quickly as possible, but Rasmussen just managed to hold on to the place. Yayovski still third, Chinchik still fourth. Opmir was aggressive on those opening corners, Lewis.
Yeah, got Nikodem Wisniewski trying to get past Graham Carroll here, being pushed in as well by Petr Berliak, who's just trying to force his way through in that Envision racing car, all on the rear end of Yuri Toman as they head through T9 and onto the back stretch. You've got Nikodem Wisniewski in there as well, right on the rear end, and watch out for Wisniewski to try and potentially send one into the hairpin here. Good launch though from Freddie Rasmussen, though, just managed to hang on from Jano Opmir. Super effort, but Opmir's got to be racy. It's kind of a now or never type thing, because you know Freddie Rasmussen's going to run away.
Exactly. Does he have the pace, Jano Opmir, to stick with Freddie Rasmussen in the fight for the win? Here they come down into turn 16. Attack mode activation will be available at the start of the third lap of the race. House still in 5th. Not a huge amount of changes of position, to be honest, in the first couple of spots as we now come back inside, and Opmir and Rasmussen already pulling away quite a bit from Yayovski behind them, and Yayovski's working hard to try and keep Chinchik behind.
Yeah, and you got to see that gap as well back to Bono House is quite a large one, so clearly some of the issues over that first lap have just created some gaps around 1.4 seconds. Bono House is off the rear end of Marcel Chinchik, who might well be looking to try and make a move on Erhan Yayovski and get himself onto the podium here in the second and last race of the evening. Chinchik's going to be racy. I know that, outside of this, I've said it before, the RHG drivers being Yayovski, Chinchik and Toman, they're all teammates. In this, that doesn't matter. Their sim racing affiliation outside of this does not matter. They are racing for DS Techeetah, for Nissan E-Dams, for themselves, and so that kind of side of things just doesn't matter to them.
That's the Dragon of Graham Carroll running in 7th position after he finished 4th in the first race of the night. He's trying to get ahead of Yuri Toman, who's running in 6th, a little bit wide further back from Wisniewski as he's fighting with Petr Berliak over 8th position. Rasmussen's advantage over Opmir has gone up to 1.1 seconds at the moment. Attack mode still not open, but this is the Toman and Carroll battle over 6th place as we get onto the brakes into turn 16.
Also behind, you've got Boyak and Wisniewski quite close for 8th and 9th. So we've got a couple of duets up and down the order. Jovski's been able to clear off the rear end of Marcel Chinchik, so Bonnehaus is going to be closing in. We ride on board with Jiri Toman as we return our way into the XL, and I get the feeling that this is where the train's going to come. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. That's going to become the train. I get the feeling that Jovski might not have the long run pace to maybe keep the likes of Chinchik and, of course, Bonnehaus at bay.
Yeah, at the moment it's fairly equidistant, about a second between all of them, a second from Rasmussen to Opmir, just over a second Opmir to Jovski, then about 1.3 Jovski to Chinchik, a second to Huis, and then it is a second and a half from House to Toman.
Sorry, you've been commentating on it for a few years, don't worry,
Yeah,
I'll allow it.
I know, but it was it was time to sort it out and I haven't been able to. 11 and a half minutes to go. Attack mode is now open. And who goes when in Rasmussen versus Opmir? That's going to be the fascinating part.
Well, Rasmussen doesn't have the opportunity he had in the previous race, did he? When he had already by this point 4-5 seconds because of the chaos behind. He doesn't have that opportunity. He has to kind of wait for Opmir to do it. But Opmir in the previous race was one of the last people to do it. So I kind of think he might copy and paste that strategy and leave it till quite late.
Oh, and Rasmussen's going early. And is he going to take the lead? He is not. That was so tight between them, and around the outside goes Opmir and he can't get it done. Rasmussen with a second advantage manages to hold the lead after activating attack mode, and that's big for his championship hopes. Freddie Rasmussen holds the lead, is in attack mode, and Opmir couldn't quite make the move.
Did you see how wise Jano Opmir was there? That is a driver that, yes, maybe he only really started in sim racing 4 or 5 years ago. He's won so many great prizes because he knows when a battle's worth it or not. He got to the inside of Freddie Rasmussen. Was the opportunity there? Is he likely to pick up a penalty if there's contact? Yes. So he's like, okay, I'm going to back out of it a little bit. I'm going to focus on second position. I'm going to focus on the train behind, focus on getting what I can get out of this, which might well just be second overall, and that's fine for him.
The biggest prize money, of course, going to the champion, and then going down in sort of steps with 10 minutes to go. Rasmussen is leading, Opmir is second, Jovski is third. Through the switchback hairpins they come, and you know what, Jovski's closed in a little bit on Opmir. I don't know if it was because Rasmussen and Opmir were battling, but Jovski kind of closed the gap down a little bit. He's got a bit of a gap now to Chinchik in 4th position, House in 5th, Toman, Carroll, Wisniewski, Burlak, and Spezia completing the top 10 with Daly outside of the points at the moment. There goes Opmir through attack mode, and he manages to keep the place. It's an interesting attack mode here because you get quite a lot of speed off the corner. Even though you go wide, you sort of rejoin the track with more momentum.
Yeah, and much like it is in real life, you do have less grip offline as well as going around the outside. You're taking a wide line into the corner. You do have less grip out there. It won't be something which gets that much worse over a 15-minute race, but still it is something which they do need to focus on. The grip is not quite the same. Opmir did get that attack mode activated properly. I do think it costs you around about a second to go off. So we had 1.3 to Erhan Jovski. It's why he came out comfortably ahead, whereas when Freddie Rasmussen did it, he only about 9/10. It's why they were side by side.
Absolutely. On board here with Opmir in the Mercedes. Now this would, with House still in 5th position, this would give Opmir second in the championship at the end of the evening, which would be a very good result for Opmir, considering he qualified 8th in the first race. His recovery has been superb.
Yeah, really very impressive to be able to kind of keep his nose clean that first race, to come through the chaos that maybe opened up the opportunity, that lap 1 incident that opened up the opportunity for him to get this, but he's backed it up with a great second race. You can see Jano Opmir with the attack mode on, also Bonnehaus and Jiri Toman, so with those three doing it, and Freddie Rasmussen as well. It does mean that Jovski, Chinchik, Carroll, Wisniewski, and then those behind all have to still do it, and they have to do it. If they don't do it, they get DQ'd.
Absolutely. The chase is on here for Opmir, isn't he? He's not relenting on his pursuit of Freddie Rasmussen. The gap is 1.2 seconds as they come into the XL again across the line, and the gap is 1.1 seconds. Now it's down to 1 second as they cut the timing beam. So we've seen Opmir very good at chasing. What can he do this time around? Everybody has the order is exactly the same as the start actually at the moment, which is quite interesting. Not seen that in a while. No, exactly.
Very odd. Got to say though, whilst this is an absolutely incredible drive, there was a little bit of contact there, I think, on the rear end of Yuri Toman. I think Nikodem Vishnevsky just got onto the rear end of Yuri Toman. There is Marcel Cinczyk, who's dropped off the rear end of Erhan Yuyovsky after taking, I think, at least attempting attack mode potentially, because there's a large gap there. Opmir closing in on Rasmussen though. My fear is that he might be using a bit too much energy in doing so. Whilst this is a 15-minute race, roughly 11 laps, they still have numbers to hit. They can't just go all out on the attack and just keep the pedal down.
The gap goes back up to 1.2 seconds at the moment. So fascinating seesawing between the leaders. And there goes Yuyovsky through attack mode. And as you said, he had quite a big advantage over Cinczyk, so he's able to come out in third place. Back on board again with Jano Opmir, chasing down Freddie Rasmussen as we come up, slip east and back into the XL again.
So, like I say, so tidy at the moment from Opmir. You can kind of see comparatively between qualifying, when they're throwing it around, they're resting on tyres. You have to worry about overheating the tyres. Yuyovsky confirms his attack mode. I think Marcel Cinczyk went for attack mode and missed it, because he did drop back about 1.5 seconds from the Macedonian that currently holds the podium spot. Graham Carroll also going through the attack mode as Ben Daly's runs out.
Bono House is in a bit of a race of his own, so my pick at the start of the evening was incorrect. And I probably should have bailed out sooner.
But I'm shocked that he's not been able to close to Marcel Cinczyk and Yuyovsky, because he's been fast enough.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. So House still running in 5th position. Onto the brakes. Into the right-hander comes Opmir. Then back on the power, coming out of those hairpins through this little left-right flick, and then down towards turn 16 again. The gap's still 1.3 seconds, a little mop of the brow from Jano Opmir as he continues to push with 5.5 minutes to go.
And Yuyovsky's used the attack mode to close back in, because he's only a second behind Jano Opmir, so if he has burnt out too much energy trying to keep up with Freddie Rasmussen, this might come back to haunt him, as Yuyovsky is right on the rear end. His attack mode runs out, but he's used it to good effect because he's closed right back in, and we'll be seeing the rear end of this Mercedes very, very close indeed.
Through the left-hander. Here's the gap between Rasmussen and Opmir. It is 1.4 seconds now. So Opmir about 100th slower on that last lap. Cinczyk is in attack mode. And so I think you're right in that he tried to get it, failed, but then has managed it on this second attempt. And House has actually caught up to the back of him now. So we'll see whether House can make any progress in the closing stages. Yuyovsky in 3rd position, just a second behind Opmir. And Yuyovsky in the points is down in 8th place. So if he's able to get a 3rd place finish or even a 2nd place finish, that could launch him quite a long way up the order in terms of the prize money.
Yeah, you've got to remember with the prize money as well, it's 100,000 euros that's being spread out across all of the drivers here. They've all received something, but it's obviously a large bit. You said before, it goes down in steps, being 35,000 euros for the winner, then 22, then 18. And the thing is when it steps down like that, if you're sat there you finish 4th in the championship by missing out 1 point, that costs you, in a sense, 8,000 euros. Which is a bit of a hit.
That's making me feel poorly, that is. That's so stressful.
All because of one move.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes a difference.
So yeah, can Yuyovsky get ahead of Opmir? Opmir again closes the gap to 1.2 seconds behind Rasmussen. They're so metronomic, these drivers. I think that's what impresses me the most. Here comes Rasmussen. There's the top 3 there. They're all quite together. They're all separated by less than 2 seconds. Rasmussen, Opmir and Yuyovsky across the line. It's Yuyovsky who's looking the most racy out of the 3 of them.
And the gap between the top 7 at this point was the size of the gap that Freddie Rasmussen won by in the previous race. It was over 10 seconds that Freddie Rasmussen won the previous race by. He is not having quite as easy attempt here. And it's so easy to push that a little bit too hard, to clip a wall slightly wrong. Yes, damage is on, but it's not even just that's the problem. You can clip a wall slightly wrong, it pulls you into it, it sends you straight on. You don't necessarily take a great line through a corner, and that can cost you the time that drops you back into the pack.
3 minutes to go. Freddie Rasmussen leading, 1.1 seconds ahead. At the moment, fastest lap is Freddie Rasmussen, a 1 minute 23.436. So that would be another. Can he get a clean sweep this evening, Rasmussen? 3 points for pole, 25 points for both wins, and a point for both fastest laps. I mean, what a flex, as the kids would say.
And every single lap led as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's been an incredible performance so far from Freddie Rasmussen. He's proving why he is one of the biggest names in sim racing. He's just so focused, so calm, and in a scenario like this, almost unbeatable.
If you had to sign, if you're running a team, you have to sign 2 drivers for your team. Which are you signing?
I mean, if it's anyone in the entirety of sim racing, Freddie Rasmussen and Josh Rogers, who's not
Really?
here. Yeah, Josh Rogers is an incredible driver. If not, Jano Opmir, who's not a bad reserve in that sense.
Okay, so Rasmussen and Josh Rogers. We did see, those of you who are huge fans of Formula E esports will remember Josh Rogers from the Race at Home Challenge, which I think he dominated a race for Porsche.
New York, I think it was.
Yeah, I think he didn't do a huge amount of the races, but he certainly dominated some of them. But the drivers we have here, Rasmussen, Opmir and Yuyovsky up at the front. Yuyovsky's got the gap down to now 0.6 of a second. And this is going to not help. We're on the penultimate lap of the race, and Opmir suddenly is going to be looking in his mirrors a little more. Look how close they are through the hairpins. Such different lines, actually, between the two of them, and different approaches to those hairpins.
Yeah, you can see that Freddie Rasmussen's getting a much straighter exit from both of them, whereas Jano Opmir's taking a slightly more traditional line through them with, like, wide out, wide in as well, taking it like that, whereas you can see this, again, using the rear tyres. It shows how much confidence Freddie Rasmussen has, but it is coming back to him a little bit, because I've got to say, I am unbelievably impressed by this pace from Jano Opmir to really keep up, to really keep the pressure on, and as well from Yuyovsky, who both of them started maybe struggling in the first race before they worked their way up the order. Right now, challenging the dominant man himself.
Here we go then, 1 lap to go in the London E-Prix Accelerate competition. Freddie Rasmussen, if he holds on to take the win, even if he finishes in the podium places, will win the title and the 35,000 euros that comes with it. Opmir is right behind him though, still has the chance to win if he's able to get ahead of Rasmussen, and then something befalls Rasmussen in this final lap, but it looks as though the man that is not going to crack under pressure surely is Freddie Rasmussen. Through the right-hander now, out towards the double hairpins, and they've just all gapped a little bit, haven't they? Yuyovsky dropping a little bit further back from Opmir, onto the brakes, into the right-hander, then into the left, and if anything, it's Yuyovsky who's looking closest to making a move.
Yeah, so smooth from Freddie Rasmussen at the moment. He's just keeping it clean and tidy. Like you say, Erhan Yuyovsky, the Macedonian, might fancy something down to T16, because I think Opmir's made a bit of a mistake here, Jack.
Here they come into turn 16 for the final time. Rasmussen is 1.1 seconds away. Opmir onto the brakes, has a big slide coming into that final right-hander. They're going to squabble it out for second place, but there's no squabbling for the race win. Freddie Rasmussen won the first season of Formula E Accelerate a couple of years ago, and now with an absolutely dominant performance, 2 pole positions, 2 fastest laps and 2 race wins, Freddie Rasmussen through the final corner wins again in London and wins Formula E Accelerate 2022 with yet another victory from this dominant Dane. Less than a second ahead of Opmir in the end. Yuyovsky chased him all the way as well, but 2 wins for Freddie Rasmussen. The man is unstoppable.
Incredible drive. Once again, just so clean, less dominant than in the previous race. But, I mean, a win is a win at the end of the day, and if you can take it, that's how they come. I mean, it was just so clean, so consistent, and as you said, Jack, to take the clean sweep in a sense, pole position, fastest lap, victory, every lap led. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this, because these drives are ones you remember.
What's it called? Is it the Grand Chelem?
Grand Slam.
I don't know what the difference is.
I think it's the same thing, but one's slightly less English.
The Grand Slam. So there is Ben Daly. No, sorry, that's the Mahindra coming through, isn't it? Into the final couple of corners. But Rasmussen taking the win then, less than a second ahead of Opmir. Yuyovsky 3rd, Chinchik 4th, House 5th, Carroll finishing in 6th position. And those top 6 have all scored big points as far as the championship is concerned. We'll bring you the championship standings in a few moments' time. But really, the main man is Freddie Rasmussen. Here's the provisional classifications. Fastest lap for Freddie Rasmussen, absolute domination. Opmir in 2nd place, Yuyovsky 3rd, Chinchik in 4th, House in 5th, Carroll, Toman, Berliak, Wisniewski Daly, the top 10. So Daly actually managed to finish just 4 seconds ahead of Spezia, so they must have had a nice little fight.
They did in the previous race as well, of course, fighting towards the back, but having a little chat with a pair of them beforehand, basically just aiming to stay on the lead lap, and I will say, Ben Daly was not super confident in being able to do it, but yes, maybe there was a bit of a DQ at the end of the previous race because of not using his attack mode. In both races, though, still finished on the lead lap, the important bit that he was aiming for.
Clean sweep for Freddie Rasmussen.
A wonderful race indeed, and it was incredible to see Erhan Yovski as well make it up there.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really nice to see Yovski back in the fight. Look how aggressive Opmir was in the early stages. I mean, he gave it everything, and it was nice and clean.
I've got to say, both occasions that Jano Opmir had something to do down here into T1 as well as when they went for attack mode, on both of those occasions he knew when the battle was over and didn't try leaving his nose in when maybe it was a little bit too late, like you saw there back in T1. This is when Freddie Rasmussen went for that attack mode. Now watch this, Jano Opmir will try and stay around the outside coming through T17. It gets to this point and he thinks, nope, I'm never going to make that stick, I'm going to back out, I'm going to hold in a second. Such mature driving.
Yeah, absolutely. Real world racer, of course, in the past, Jano Opmir, so a lot of experience for him in the real world as well. But it was then the chase, Opmir and Yovski doing their best to close in on Rasmussen, but pinged in the fastest lap at 23.4. That gave him another point, as if he needed another point in order to wrap up this title. Full point score of 58 points, and that was the final lap. Very, very deep from Yovski in the DS Techeetah. He was just sending everything in that he possibly could in third place to try and get the win, but nowhere near that man. You wouldn't even know he'd won.
I know, so cool, calm and collected. But which race did you guys prefer, race 1 or race 2?
I enjoyed race 2 I just love the intensity. I really like race cars just chasing each other around in circles. You know what I mean? If there's no overtaking, I don't mind, because it's the intensity and it's the pressure and it's who's going to crack first. And even if no one cracks, that's great. But race 1 had a bit more to it.
This is the thing, is that both the races that we've had here have both been very, very different. Race 1 was maybe more exciting, more crash and bang, obviously, with everything that happened on lap 1, and it was just crazy, and then Jano Opmir make up 3 spots. But like you say, race 2 was just a pressure cooker. It was building, it was building, it was building. It was who was going to crack. Now these are the very, very best, and so they don't tend to crack. And I've got to say, no one did.
No one did. Well, let's have a look at the classifications then, shall we?
Yes, let's. After 2 races this evening here in London at Formula E Accelerate, it's going to be most likely the race winner will be Freddie Rasmussen after a really, really strong performance, you have to say. The stewards are just going through everything and making sure it's all above board, which, as we've said before, is so doable in esports, because all of these, they can look back at any driver at any point from any angle and any view and see throttle input, brake input. Yeah, they've got like,
it's almost like there's more pressure on race control to be like, well, you can't possibly get it wrong now, can you? I will say, race control is, I've always kind of backed it as being like, it's a thankless task. It's kind of one of those ones that needs to be done for the racing to be fair and equal. It's one that no one really wants to do, because it is tricky to do. You've got to make decisions. Race control, yeah, I did once, and I backed out of it after 6 races. Like, no, thank you. No, thanks.
What was it?
It was in a race called the Top Step Racing League, which was back in 2013. And I've never decided to return, not a chance. I really wish I could have said that touring car thing and I was the one that DQ'd you or banned you or whatever it was.
I got a race ban from touring cars.
Oh, did you?
He's been a bad boy.
Would you ever dabble in race control?
I'd be interested in doing it, honestly, like, genuinely. I'd be interested in doing it. I was a football referee when I was a kid.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was a football referee, but I was getting so much abuse from the fans and the parents, that I was like, I'm not doing this.
Not the one.
No.
Well, I think race control, maybe we should speed things up so that this conversation comes to a halt. I mean, just reflecting on today, how cool is it that we were able to pull this off? So nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. Like to be able to have the very best. Again, this is something that we've missed a little bit from sim racing as well. It's one of those things that we were sort of building up towards 2018, 2019, everything that happened over the last few years. To have everyone back in person, to be meeting for me in sim racing, to be able to meet with the likes of Yovski and that one, to be like, oh, been commentating on you for like 8 years now, to be able to meet and actually say hello and have a conversation and prove that I am actually an actual human being. It's a big deal, and those are the kind of things that sell these events even more.
Jury's still out on you being an actual.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
But it's absolutely right, because as Lewis says, we were getting towards that. You know, the Visa Vegas E-Race in 2017 was huge, and then F1 Esports has brought people together on occasion as well. But in Formula E, Race of Home Challenge and Accelerate, we're all still global pandemic based, right? So to have everyone here racing absolutely wheel to wheel is so much fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's so nice to just meet them. They're all so lovely. But again, it is interesting to see what everyone's style is before racing. It's like, do I talk to you? Do I not talk to you? Do you need to get in the zone? I personally would be like a headphones person, I reckon, listening to some music.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't like, this is one thing that you probably don't know, because we've not actually had a conversation during the race. I can't have any distraction. Like, I need to be focused on what's going on. I can't have like anyone speaking in my ear. A race engineer, no. Music, no.
So hang on, you're not on like TeamSpeak with people?
No, absolutely not. I'll say hello like before the race. I'm like, yeah, good luck, and I'm like, everything's muted.
Head in the game.
Yeah, I can't. Anything in my ear, and I'm just sort of like, I've missed an apex, and it's someone else's fault as well that I've missed an apex. It's not mine, never.
Interesting.
What about you, Jack?
I'm fine with chit chat and people talking, but then it's kind of my job is to try and carry on doing what I'm doing with people chatting in my ear. So I'm kind of used to it.
Fantastic. Some Hit Me Baby One More Time playing.
Yeah. I'm not professional enough.
But it's actually some like top esports drivers race with listening to music, which is so weird.
Yeah,
I find that so weird.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Well, something else that's very cool is the fact that the stewards have finished deliberating, and we have the final race classification results for you right now. Thank you very much.
Freddie Rasmussen then takes the victory after 11 laps of racing, 9/10 of a second ahead of Jano Opmir. Third place for Erhan Yajovski. Marcel Chinchik in fourth position. Bono House in fifth spot with Graham Carroll sixth. Yuri Toman seventh. Petr Berliak in eighth position. Ninth for Nikodem Wisniewski, and Ben Daly completing the top 10, finishing ahead of Ellis Spezia, the American racing for the Mahindra racing team. So that's confirmation that Rasmussen's win will also give him the championship title after the 2 races here in London. A perfect score, 58 points, almost double that of his nearest rival, which was Jano Opmir, Opmir's Mercedes teammate in outside of Formula E, Bono House, finishing in third place with Marcel Chinchik in fourth, tied on points.
Ooh, what happens there?
With Graham Carroll. Well, it depends on the count back. Did they finish in the same positions both races? I can't remember. But if they, it gets weighted to either whoever had the best race finish, or if they're tied on race finishes, it's whoever finished that position, the highest position in the second race, or something along those lines. If I've not explained that very well. Yajovski in sixth place, Berliak, Toman, Nikodem Wisniewski only finishing ninth in the championship.
Only 4 points.
Yeah, 4 points after being on the front row for the first race. Real surprise and shame for Nikodem, who won Le Mans 24 the
very first one, back in 2020, won that, finished, I can't remember, I think it was half a point or a point off of the championship this year.
Right.
Like super tight coming into it. Again, a great driver on this platform, more so in endurance, less so in sprint, but has done well in sprints, GTs, etc. This just clearly went wrong from the first step, and sometimes you have those days where you just can't seem to get a win.
Well, there is Kieran Holmes-Darby, who is handing the third place trophy to Bono House. Another trophy to go in his collection. And not quite the top step as it was in the Visa Vegas E-Race in 2017 for Bono, but a third place finish for the Rocket Venturi racing team, and a very strong performance for Bono. And it was qualifying for race 2 where it sort of went awry.
Yeah, absolutely, big time. I mean, maybe he could have challenged if he got onto that front row, but like you say, a costly mistake when he was battling with Erhan Yajovski, put him on the back foot. He could never really get back on with it again, and unfortunately that's how it goes. When you have a qualifying session where it is just one lap, you can't afford to make those mistakes. You don't have another lap to come back.
No, absolutely. Jano Opmir then in the end finishing in second in the championship. A really strong performance from him. Was chasing down all the way for Freddie Rasmussen up at the front. Really good effort from Jano Opmir. And again, almost the opposite for Opmir. It was qualifying in the first race that maybe is what cost him the title.
I mean, he had great pace, that's the thing. In that second race, he really showed that he could take it to Freddie Rasmussen. Maybe after the first couple laps, I thought Freddie Rasmussen was going to go.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Yeah.
You know, it was just being kept under pressure. Never really went for a move outside of when Freddie Rasmussen went for attack mode, but I loved Jano Opmir's maturity and mindset in that of understanding what was at risk. I think that's a lesson that a lot of drivers can learn from, and it proves why he's a two-time F1 esports champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the title, though, is for Freddie Rasmussen. A superb performance from him. Absolute clean sweep. And with the level of, I just can't get over it, with the level of competition here, Lewis.
Yeah, it just shows that when it comes to racing in a competition where you have to come to person, you have to get used to something, he might well take the title of Mr. Adaptable away from Bonner House, because he adapted perfectly, and such a good event from start to finish. He never really put a foot wrong, even in practice.
Yeah, absolutely superb performance from Freddie Rasmussen. He is the driver who wins Formula E Accelerate London off the back of winning Formula E Accelerate a couple of years ago. Thank you very much to Lewis McGlade for joining me in commentary. But now let's hear from our champion, Freddie Rasmussen, who's with Darren Adatasia.
Freddie Rasmussen, a massive congratulations. I mean, you've done it before, you've done it again today. How do you feel?
I don't think I realize it yet. We'll see later how I feel, but I'm definitely happy that I got it done. It's not often you have days like this, so I'm really happy.
Well, maybe it will sink in when the 35,000 euros hits your account and the trip to Seoul, perhaps. What are you planning to do with this one?
Maybe invested in the apartment this time.
Very nice. For context, last year, as I was saying earlier, Freddie used his Accelerate prize pool to buy a wonderful apartment. I mean, very well deserved. You absolutely smashed it. It's been incredible watching yourself and the fantastic grid that we have here. And so now it is time to collect your trophy from Kieran, our gaming director at Formula E. Very well done.
Freddie, absolutely dominant performance. That's all I can say. You swept the floor. This is well and truly deserved. Congratulations, mate. You are our Accelerate champion for 2022.
Woo!
Thank you so much. Well done, really well raced, really well raced. How do you find it? Good?
Overall, good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Well, that does mark the end of our Accelerate London. Kieran, just to wrap things up, obviously, it's been fantastic that this was all coming together. I think you're the man behind it all. How do you feel about it all?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome to put an event on like this, you know, to put on an event for the sim racing community that I think went as well as it could have gone. Obviously, it's the guys on stage that really make the show. Some great racing out there. Yeah, thank you so much to Freddie and all the drivers today. I thought they put on a brilliant show. And yeah, I hope the viewers at home enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you all very much for joining us. It's been incredible, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, everyone.